like they're sort of frozen points. And Neil and Noel.
All this was.
You know. All right, well. Back to the news script. All right, being 7 o'clock, I'll open the meeting of the Bellingham Conservation Commission for December 13th, 2023. This is a hybrid meeting, and tonight I want to state for the record at the very beginning that we have 3 commission members who are participating via Zoom. Ariane Barden, Noel
Present.
Leos, and Neil Stanley are present and online. You all can hear okay? Yes, all 3 of you, please confirm.
Yes,
Yes, you're great.
Okay, thank you. So we will have 2 commissioners, myself and Steve. We're going to be here on site, and the other members are going to be participating off-site tonight. First, I'm going to ask the applicants for 217 Hart Drive, even though we're sitting there, just be patient for a moment. You are on a 7, but we have 2 very brief business things.
No patience here.
Yeah, no patience here. Okay. All right, so we'll open the first continued hearing for 10 Cutler Street. It's a 44 by 16-foot garage, thin wall apartment in the BZ with 1,000-gallon septic tank. Applicant Jody Willis, Representative Paul DeSimone. This has been continued for quite a while, and the update from our administrator is?
He emailed me saying he would like to withdraw without prejudice.
So the rep Paul DeSimone has asked that we withdraw this, he withdraw this project on behalf of the applicant, Jody Willis. Any questions for the commission? I believe based on our previous situation like this for 0 Maple Street was the most recent one we had this happen, I believe. Also, the applicant asked to withdraw. We just make note of that. We don't have to vote on accepting it or anything like that. So that's just a point of information. Okay, so noted. We are moving on to continued hearing for Blackstone and North Streets, 12 3-unit townhouse buildings with a stormwater management system. Applicant John Mushayan, Representative Ryan Rosine from Goddard Consulting. The update for that is that.
They wish to continue till the 10th of January.
Okay, I know there's still ongoing conversations in the town, planning and others with this project, so it's still an active project. Any questions from the commissioners? I'll accept the motion to continue the hearing to the 10th of January at what time? So moved. Wait, just a time. We're 7.
7.
7 p.m.
Seven.
So moved. Thank you, Steve. Second?
Second.
Oh, it's a tie. I don't know. That's we'll let Ariane have this one, Neil, for next one, I'm sure. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Ariane, aye.
Okay, so just for the record, because again, this is a hybrid commissioners, we have an aye from Ariane, we have an aye from Neil Stanley, and we have an aye from Noel, and Steve and I have also said aye. So it's a unanimous vote. Thank you. All right, we'll open the 217 Hartford Avenue continued hearing, 700,000 square foot warehouse. BVW Bank land underwater impacts under the WPA with mitigation of 39,358 square feet of isolated wetland and vernal pools under the bylaw with mitigation. Applicant Jeff Curley from WS Bellingham ID Associates, or I guess. And representative tonight's Brian Madden from LEC Environmental Consultants and Austin Turner.
That sounded ominous.
Well, I wanted to make sure I included both of you since you're both sitting at the table. All right, I believe you're going to give us a brief recap, at least to start your presentation tonight.
Yeah, good evening again. For the record, Austin Turner with Bowler and Mr. Brian Madden here at LSC. So when we last met our heroes, we had a working session, another working session with Matt.
Remember the date? I'm sorry.
November 27th.
It was like,
Yeah, it was a Monday, 27th, I believe.
okay.
Anna was there, Steve was there, Matt obviously was there. Again, very, very productive working session where really the focus, and I'll get into some of the details in a minute, was on wetland mitigation area 2, which is the one kind of northwest corner as you come into the property and start approaching where we're gonna have the warehouse building. And the reason being, we thought, as we had discussed with the commission previously, that area, we wanted to be the focus of that particular working session because it is the mitigation area, which is largely influenced by groundwater, will largely be influenced by the stormwater runoff, which is being infiltrated by the stormwater system as part of this project, but also has some hydraulic input from that stormwater system. So we wanted to make sure that the underlying assumptions that we were making with the performance expectations, how it was going to be orchestrated, had some initial feedback from Matt as we were working through that. And so when we set it up and ultimately as we put in kind of the revised plans, that there was some general alignment. Now, what we wanted to go through, I thought, with the commission tonight, as we have done after all those working sessions, is tell you how we are approaching that and make sure there's a consensus there. We thought in that working session that what we're putting forth made a lot of sense. We spent probably an hour and a half kind of working through that and came to what we thought was a pretty good design consensus, but ultimately the commission's kind of the gatekeeper there. So that was what I wanted to run through predominantly tonight, make sure I had all any feedback from the commission, and then talk about what we were thinking in terms of next steps, from your perspective, from ours, and let you know kind of where we are in the process. Does that seem to make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right. I will pop up my screen. I need to be helped. Yeah, do it.
Pam, could you allow Austin sharing privileges for the screen, please?
He should be all set now.
There
Thank
we
you.
go. Thank you.
Welcome.
Let's see here. So this is what you're looking at here this is what we're calling wetland resource area 2 or mitigation area 2. The area that has that kind of minty green color will be the actual created wetland. The area that's that pink color is what we're calling buffer to that new resource area. So as we've talked about, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit, but as we've kind of talked about this area here, we created, with some guidance from the commission, with some input from Matt, this undulating topography in there to create, little tiny depressions in there and make it feel and function like a wetland system. And it's going to be vegetated and they'll have a lot of different wetland species in there. The purpose of our focus, on the 27th was hydrology. We wanted to make sure that there was a consensus to how this thing was going to be fed and supported. So this system here, as we've talked about previously, we're cutting it in. So we're excavating down a ways, maybe 6 feet in there. The primary reason for that is to kind of make sure we're intercepting that groundwater, because that's how most of these wetland systems are supported. And based on what we know about the groundwater, the extensive test pit work we've done here, the gradients of how groundwater is proceeding, which essentially goes to that brook and trending towards 495, we feel really good about this being able to intercept groundwater resources and have that be a sustaining feature of the system. Supporting that, we're going to have, I'll flip to a different sheet so we can see it. This right here, this kind of checkerboard looking deal, that's the underground system. So if you recall, we had where the mitigation area is now, used to be a surface basin. That was part of the original design. As a result of our discussions, our field walks, we said that area feels like it's much more conducive to a wetland replication area. Let's move the base under the parking lot. The plans that we submitted last week incorporate that. Now, we talked about it at our last meeting. We have designed this stormwater system to be independent of the wetland mitigation area. So it meets the performance standards that it needs to meet from a stormwater perspective without reliance upon the mitigation area, right? So we collectively, being the commission and ourselves, didn't want that mitigation area serving as a stormwater feature. However, acknowledging that it's going to be supported in part by the water that comes out of this basin. So what we did, we spent a lot of time with Hannah and Steve and Matt talking about, okay, how's that want to work? What's that look like? And so what we've done is, you can see this kind of vertical black line right here. That's the pipe that we had talked about, which is going to handle the outflow from this basin, which will then spread water into each of those respective pockets in that mitigation area. And we, as a collaborative team in that meeting, felt good about this system being able to be supported by groundwater resources and stormwater runoff, which is infiltrated as part of this system, because the gradient goes from the bottom of the sheet to the north part of the sheet. And this system here, where my hand's kind of moving around, is low enough where it will be receiving water in both capacities. Matt brought up a really good point in that meeting. He's like, nature can be a fickle thing at times, right? So we don't want to be so, I guess, refined, if you will, to have it be only dependent on those things. So what we've done as part of this design, we built in some flexibility into the design of the stormwater system. So essentially the outlet control device, which is controlling and restricting the hydraulics of that stormwater system, we put in low flow pipes in the bottom of that system, which are threaded and capped or closed by a valve, which affords us, being the applicant, the commission, and your professionals, if, let's say, as part of a presumptive monitoring period for the sustainability of the system, it's determined, hey, we would like a little bit more water in that system. All we do is we just turn the valve, and it will allow for that system to release a bit more water into this wetland mitigation area to provide some additional sustaining flow. It could be that we never open it. It could be alternatively, we feel like, hey, it's functioning almost too well. So in the mitigation area, again, as part of Matt's suggestion was, let's not let the water get too high. So that system also includes a valved outlet, the wetland itself. So if it's like, hey, that water's too much in there and seasonally we want it to be a bit more drier, we can open that valve and then throttle the water back. That's not going to be, we don't do that every year, but what it's going to allow us to do is kind of tune in the system over the course of whatever the monitoring period is to get it functioning in its sweet spot. We thought building in flexibility to this particular system was appropriate, made a lot of sense. So this design is reflective of that ability to kind of monitor and tune over a prescriptive period of time.
So just as a checkpoint on this, if it's too dry and you'd like to increase the water, but it's too dry and all the pipes that are leading down into the infiltration basin aren't contributing much because there's no rainfall hitting the parking lots and going through the system, then the point of having that add to the system is that it will be able to, if it has the reserve, but if it doesn't, there's no water in there or not enough to then outflow into the system because there's a minimal amount left in the system at all times, I assume, yes?
And so that system, that stormwater system itself is intended to either infiltrate everything in there at the bottom. It doesn't have a belly in there, so it's not a bathtub. And then the pipe that we put in that has the ability to be throttled is at the very bottom of the system. So theoretically, you'd be getting anything that was sitting in the bottom would be coming out and into that if that were to be opened. If we were to go through some kind of extended dry period, I don't think this system would be unique in it experiencing perhaps, being somewhat on the drier side. That might be a global thing that wouldn't just be unique to this, because you'd be seeing that
Elsewhere on the
elsewhere,
site even.
sure, yeah, on systems that aren't even have any interface with stormwater.
What's the elevation of the bottom valve that you were just referring to? That's
So
like
what we
that
did-
compared to the bottom of the system. Sorry, the outflow. I mean, in other words, how far above the bottom of the basin is this?
Yeah, good question. So this system here, right there, is at 214 is the lowest spot in that system. The bottom of the stormwater system itself is at 218. And what we've done is, so this system here, the bottom of this is at 218. This pipe, this stretcher pipe right here, is gravity fed out of the bottom. And then this pipe here, that's in that kind of the spreader pipe, if you will, is flat. So it allows for this basin to drain via gravity until it gets to the spreader pipe, and then that spreader pipe distributes flow into the
So
pots.
4 foot of elevation over, what's that distance in the?
It's approximately 60 feet. So it's got a decent pitch on there. We didn't want it to be so fast where it was like kind of careening through, but I guess the 12-inch.
And commission, have any other questions at this point?
Austin, there's no detail of, in the set that I could find of the mechanics of that adjustment system. Correct?
So what we did is we embedded on the details for the outlet control structure, which is the manhole, which controls the hydraulics. That detail includes kind of a cross-sectional view, if you will, of how the weirs are established and the holes in there and everything else that are controlling hydraulics. So that detail is embedded back in the construction details for the set of plans. It's like, it's probably nondescript. I suspect it's called like OCS one or
That
something.
detail is embedded where?
In the overall site plans. They're in the very, very back. Let me see if I can, maybe able to find them here. This file's quite in the paper set. Yeah, I do. I have a, let me send it to you. Yeah.
While you're looking that up, hypothetically, the project is completed and has been running for a couple of years, we've passed the monitoring period. These valves and so forth, which might be beneficial down the road, are in place, but somebody is now owning and running the site and responsible for knowing where they are, how they're working, how they're supposed to work, actually making sure that they're utilized if needed. How do you anticipate that that would happen?
I think the idea that we were talking about at kind of that working session was that, you know, let's say the monitoring period is 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it may be, is that over the course of that period of time, we're using that period of time to dial in the system, if you will, and find out where its operating sweet spot is, acknowledging that there's going to be variations seasonally. That's kind of unavoidable, but finding out where it's functioning best and then allow that monitoring period to be when you essentially set it and forget it at that point. In theory, I'm oversimplifying it, but that is kind of what we discussed at the meeting. But
We would
need,
those would need to be maintained, so we would need a fairly robust O&M plan on that system as well.
the voice of God being Neil Stanley just spoke, right?
Yeah.
So
It's 904.
Oh, yeah,
904.
yes,
So
godlike, but not, yeah.
Neil, what you're referring to is the mitigation area, I presume, right? Like there's a maintenance plan for the mitigation area?
Or the stormwater system.
Yeah, stormwater and yeah,
Yeah, so
the overall O&M plan. Yep.
So the stormwater system does have an O&M plan. It's embedded in the back of the drainage report. That requires, you know, frequent or not frequent, but regular maintenance of all the systems and, you know, jetting of the system, cleaning of the outlet control structure to make sure those are functioning properly.
So it's not quite set and forget, which were words you just used to.
No, but I meant like if you open the valve, for example,
Yeah.
if you open the valve and it's decided over that monitoring period that valve open is where it wants to be. Then leave
3
the
or
valve
5 year
open.
period, I'm thinking a few years down the road, climate change or whatever else, we've been through a rough stretch of some dry weather, it's too wet, or someone getting 4 inches of rain like we did the other day, 3 times in a month, and we have some situations that need to be addressed. Want to make sure that somebody knows how to deal with it down the
Sure.
road, so that we don't have an area that's been painstakingly replicated because we're adding to it, not be controlled the way it's been designed to be able to do.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, and I think perhaps what we can do is refine the operation and management plan to talk about that specifically. It wouldn't be overly complicated to do that. It'd be a couple, maybe a paragraph.
Yeah, I'm not talking about somebody coming out and checking every week or anything, but knowing how to do it and deal with it if it needs to be, if, you know, the situation's a casually observed every so often that needs some addressing.
Yeah.
Could I?
Yeah, I think that would be important to flesh that out and really specify the maintenance and the operation of that system. Again, given the crazy weather we have these days, I don't think set it and forget it would probably be a prudent operating plan.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be so simple with that, but I don't disagree with you, Neil.
Thanks, Neil. Matt?
Just occurring to me, to ask whether or not that regular maintenance of the infiltration system under the parking lot potentially has impact to the constructed wetland. How do you get to that system to clean it? Does it go, you know, is that process likely, do we need to be worried about that regular cleaning process having a downstream impact?
So the short answer is no, and the larger answer is the stormwater system that we have has access points on the surface, and the water that runs into there goes through what the proprietary term for is an isolator route. It's literally isolated from the system, so when they jet back it stays contained in there, and then you can stick a hose down and grab, you know, say sediment in there or any other stuff. So it's isolated, and it wouldn't then just push through the system, come out the pipe and kind of bleed into the wetland. So the nature of how that system is set up and designed allows it to be maintained as a closed system and not kind of extend out to anything else.
You're worried about somebody dropping their car keys like I am in a storm drain during a heavy storm, and there they go down the drain, and where are they gonna come out? And let's get the shot back in there.
They're in
Oh,
the
well,
south.
no, go look down in the wetlands. We'll be out in about an hour and a half at this rate. Okay.
Turtle holding them.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Matt. Could you zoom out for just a second and show the area that, you were, yeah, before you zoomed in there. Okay, a little bit more, we can see the lines coming into it from this, oh. with
I
the
need to do a
storm-
different sheet. What
Yeah.
what area are you
The
talking
one with
about?
the storm basin piping showing in, the piping coming from the parking lot.
Right there.
Yeah. Okay, if you zoom out a little bit more, I see the parking lot to the right of this on the visual screen.
Yep.
Those pipes are going into it, it's pretty apparent, and it looks like the large parking area in the back has some feeders to it.
Yeah, so the watershed, if you will, for this basin right here, it includes this part of the driveway that comes down is collected and put in here. And then this part of the parking area in here, this side parking here,
Okay,
is what's contributing to this system here.
okay, then if you go, let's see, if you take your cursor, move it to the right, oh, no,
I'm just
down.
gonna go out for you, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so there's a connection. Scroll up a little bit. Please. So there's a like a Y shape right where the road curves between the parking area there until you're up to a little right there.
Yeah.
Isn't that a feeder pipe or am I missing?
Yeah, no, so this small part of the driveway right here, this little
Yeah.
run comes in there as well.
But isn't that continue at the right, take a right turn, run across the whole length of the back of that parking area?
No, so what happens is this right here,
Yeah,
this is a high spot in that loading area.
okay.
So this runoff goes this way, this runoff goes this way, and then this goes to a separate system in the
Ah.
back of the building.
They don't put little arrows or anything helpful, huh? Okay.
I-
I just, yeah. I
When you're
mean-
saying they, you're referring to me.
Well, I'm trying to be polite, keeping it anonymous there, come on, but you called it
No.
out, so it goes. you know.
But, so I'll tell you, so
Alright.
this is the overall plan I'm using because it's easier, but if you
Yeah, no,
wanna go here, this has all the elevations on it that shows you where the flow's going.
yeah, no.
And I have flow arrows in it too, so look, I have your arrows.
Yeah,
I did it for you.
okay.
Look at the arrows right here. See, look at these little magic arrows.
I'm going blind, you keep flashing like that.
Sorry, sorry,
Okay.
I'm trying to give everybody a seizure.
All right, yeah, okay, I see this, so the squiggly arrow that's about 10 spaces in, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
The
so
upper
these are
point?
directional, these are
Gotcha.
surface flow arrows, yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful, okay, I hadn't zoomed in on that detail. So again, a question, if you could zoom back out to the level you had a minute ago, the overall building and the road, approach road. because
Now,
that's-
I'm defending myself with that sheet, now I have to go, all right, there you go.
A little bit more out, okay, so you said to the left of the plan there, as the crossing over the Charles River feed there and,
You looking over here?
mm,
Or I'll come back left, sorry.
left, the other left.
Yeah.
Opposite the right left, yeah, there you go. So that area is feeding as well. So basically what's running downhill from the former cart path, when it goes up towards Home Depot, the entrance road and so forth, is coming down. And where's the feed to the infiltration system? Where's
So
that?
it is, right? Right here, you can see there's a structure right here, and then this shaded area, this shaded section,
Okay,
that's what I was referring to as the isolator rope. It's a special fabric that goes around the
so
system.
there's curbing or something to keep it from going into the wetlands. It's
Yes,
between
the-
those two areas.
The road, the road and the approach is fully curved. So it's
Uh,
got, the catch basin's gonna sit against the curb and that gutter flow.
Okay, I'll ask this question to you and Matt and Hannah and Steve, since they were there. Did you guys discuss at all what I brought up about 5 times now since we started talking about this?
Absolutely.
So how was that addressed? See if you can remember what it was.
Oh.
Yes, thank you. I know the chemical treatments of the roadway.
Yeah, so
I believe it
what,
was mentioned, I said, we all know Mike's gonna bring up salt.
Because I haven't heard an answer yet, so I'm just looking until I get an answer. Maybe there'll be a good one, who knows? So what's,
we talked about a couple of things, and what's been employed at the other centers, including Charles River Center being one, is a non-sodium based de-icing agent, which is far more environmentally conscious, if you will. And that's being employed. I think WS actually employed that.
Those are in the orders of conditions for each of those properties, including the most recent one at Charles River for the repair of the retaining walls. Mandate an ongoing use of a non-sodium de-icing agent, it's Austin. But we'd expect a similar condition here for this project as well.
That's a condition for whoever is running the site and maintaining and operating the site. You aren't going to continue to operate it in forever, correct?
It's a condition that runs with the property. It's
Right.
embedded in the permit that runs with the property. So whoever's operating the site, we do intend to operate the site, but whoever's operating would have to operate in accordance with the permits.
And while non-sodium de-icing agent is a nice term to use, and I've heard it before, I don't know enough of I'm not a chemist to know exactly the details of what isn't other than sodium, isn't in it, that might be less harmful to wildlife, in particular, aquatic wildlife, but you are crossing over right at that area, a tributary of the Charles. How is the, I get the wrong name there, the group that is most affiliated with the Charles River?
Charles River Watershed Association.
Thank you. I didn't want to say it all. And or the DEP in more particular focus, regulate anything that goes into that area, specifically a river waterway, as opposed to the Charles River Plaza, which you referred to as the sodium de-icing. I mean, those are going into detention basins, which eventually feed into wetlands, which eventually, this is directly going over a tributary of the Charles, a feeder of the Charles, and so it's a perennial.
The entrance drive into Charles River does a very similar thing. There's an old culvert that runs underneath that entrance drive. Very similar fashion here. That's the same arrangement.
So there aren't any additional regulatory limitations as far as what is and isn't permitted to go potentially directly into the riverway, not through any infiltration, but directly plump right into the water.
I don't think we're intending to kerplunk anything from the driveway into the water.
I'll be interested to see when you get to that level of how that's going to be contained and kept from doing that, but this is one of those few cases I've ever experienced on Concom where we have a potential development which will involve chemicals being distributed in some form or another, and I'm open to hearing how that would be, directly over, and there's no way somebody can convince me without some impact directly to without any chance for treatment. Not that the sodium de-icing agents are not harmful, but I just want to hear more eventually is what I'm saying. I'm not looking for an answer right this moment. You've given me some answer already to the salt question. You have discussed it, so that's fine. Steve?
Well, in the workshop, I think I asked the question, and it was Jeff that mentioned the curbing will almost keep anything on the parking space from running over the edge into the wetlands. Therefore, directing it into the distribution system that treats it.
Yeah, that driveway is curved and runoff is on that driveway.
Well,
That's how it stays in the lanes, so to speak.
Right, there's gonna be little or no sheet flow off of the roadway or the parking lots
No
directly into the regulated areas.
I'm less concerned about sheet flow, Neil, than I am that when you're going down a steep hill like that and they've got a sander, grader, spreader, or something spreading this non-sodium product, it's not going to be kept from bouncing out and over or just literally going over the sides right over the Charles, unless there's a solid wall of a substantial height and distance on either side of the Charles River crossing there, tributary crossing, to keep it from going over. The curbing will keep the sheet flow, I agree, that's probably fine, but I stood next to sanders and spreaders, as you probably have, and some most of the other people in this room, and they're not neat devices, and in this particular area, it's extremely sensitive. I just want to be very much aware of what it is that's being proposed.
Well, one of the things that,
Yeah.
we've, not necessarily for that specific purpose, but we've done in the past is, so there's the curve, as Steve
This is
mentioned.
by the way, Austin, that's the condition of Charles River. It's the same thing. Those sidewalks that are on both sides of, or on one side of Charles River and then the grading to the retaining wall. So from the retaining wall to the curb is pitched back towards the road. So you get not only the curb reveal, but what Austin's about to explain. The area between the curb and the retaining wall, which in this case is 5-6 feet.
Yeah.
That is also pitched back towards the roadway. So anything that gets over the curb would drain back onto the road and therefore through the stormwater collector.
Yeah, so essentially have those bumpers, if you will, that occur that are 6 inches high. And then as you get to that spot, one side has a sidewalk on it that would pitch back into the roadway. And similarly, on the other side of the road where the sidewalk does not exist, you would grade it up from the road to the top of the retaining wall. So the road essentially sits in a very, very shallow valley, if you will, but it's not road high and then immediate cliff off the edge. where-
No,
Yeah.
the word used for very shallow roadway is what I'm concerned about. The spreader itself is 6 to 8 inches off the ground at least, so you're already. On most Sanders spreaders that I've seen, or 6 or 8, we can ask the DPW for simple explanation. And as a matter of fact, that's probably, I just thought that's probably a good suggestion. So that's the DPW director, when they spread on with their machines, should be similar to whoever, you guys gonna have to treat this properly. It's never gonna be a public road, just whoever's gonna maintain it. So whatever spreaders, and there's probably a standard height for those. If they're already above the height of the curb and they're spreading this material, whatever it
But
is,
it's coming out in a cone shape, aiming direct, they're not in the business of wasting that.
I'm not saying it's gonna be
Yeah.
dumped over in great quantities, but again, it's extremely sensitive area, and I don't know anything about the chemicals involved. I'm just raising the questions and the points. Okay, I don't wanna belabor it at this point in time. You've started to address it. I think, we can continue that on. I don't want to sidetrack from your points, given the amount of time we have left to
Yeah, I
discuss
think,
this, which is, just one point of information. We have another hearing, set at 7:30, which is about to hit, by my watch. I wanted to see if the applicant has.
I think it's the
Come on.
other. Full.
Yeah,
No, we're
okay,
not.
so-
it is,
I think
so
there
I
is
think
some-
my counterpart's gonna be on here tonight doing that other project, yeah.
Yeah, I thought earlier I saw.
Your counterpart?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's another bowler project. You will not have the pleasure of talking to me on that project.
And that is a new hearing, so we do need to give them their slot of time. I'm willing to give it 5 minutes if you can wrap things up, or if you want to.
I think I can name that in 5 minutes. If you don't
Okay.
think so, we can go.
All right, I'm gonna ask the forbearance of, Daniel Serber if he's online, and Daniel Wells if he is online. Those are the two I have listed as applicant representative. But we will take up Maple Street in just a moment.
So, all right, so we're kind of at the granular focus right here, right? We've submitted plans back. We've been talking to BSC about kind of getting their final review, if you will, of everything that's been submitted. We've had a lot of input as part of the working session, so we feel confident that the approach and the mechanics, particularly having talked about the commission, that we're in a good spot there. Wanted to talk about what you thought was, next steps and what we should be doing to kind of continue to push this down to, a presumed end game and what that looks like. And I'm interested in Matt's thoughts if he had any, but wanted to figure out what might be appropriate for us to come to the next meeting to discuss, with the idea that we're continuing to push this forward, because I feel like we've made a substantial amount of progress over the previous months, particularly with the working sessions have been very, very productive from my vantage point. And I think it's been very helpful in getting us kind of where we are. And I want to make sure that the next time we come in, we continue to move the dial for the commission. So what in the commission's interest, or eyes, and Matt for that matter, what should we be doing next?
It sounds like we don't have time. I wanted to go to 904 and look at that detail and have you explain what we're looking at a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that in a workshop. Unfortunately, the rest of the commission doesn't have that, or at another meeting if we don't
Yeah,
have
so I
time.
was
today.
just gonna suggest that. I think it may be, that's something to add on there. So if you make a note to make sure that we do include that as a point of. Matt, what was your input on this?
I think that, it's probably a good time for me to really dig in and provide a granular review
Okay.
of the current proposal, because we really have seen it come a long way in those working sessions, and I think that it would benefit the commission to kind of have that.
What's your timing for doing that?
Taking the week of Christmas off, so I guess I could dig into this, right?
Hey,
Ho, ho, ho.
I'll put some plans under your tree if you
I
want.
bet you would.
Yeah.
Matt, would that involve digging into the actual stormwater numbers?
Dominic's doing that, right?
Dawn is doing that under the planning board auspices. I don't know if there's kind of I know there's a lot of overlap,
It
whether,
was anticipated to be a joint review. of
yeah,
both agencies. Ann was, and Jim and Amy were together on hiring you guys to do that. So it was my understanding that Dominic was reviewing the stormwater elements.
yeah.
Because
And I don't-
we don't have any, we don't have any firm numbers right now whether this actually meets the performance standards.
Right, And I
As it
know Dom
stands.
is in receipt of the whole new package of materials.
Yep, I spoke to him on Friday morning as well. Yep.
Okay, yeah, so he's on board to do his component of.
Yes.
Okay. Austin, did you do the math on that already, or does that still have to be done?
On what?
Just the hydraulic, the stormwater numbers.
Oh, it's done.
Is that in this,
It's in the drain report. And the plans that are in front of you are reflective of what's in the drain report.
okay,
So the 10th of January is the next meeting that we have scheduled for Concom. What is your sense of digging into it, the level you'd like to be able to provide the Concom with some particulars and points, at least an initial pass? It may not be the definitive final review report, but what do you think? Is that too soon, or given the holidays and so forth, are you gonna be needing to think about the 24th?
And you like to have materials a week ahead to.
Ideally, yeah, I mean, that gives the commission some time to do it themselves, to review some of the stuff themselves, come up with questions.
I mean, I hate to be the one to stick it to the project, but if we could look at the 24th, the holidays are.
Having a very abbreviated report from you that would just need to be going continued on, as opposed to something a little more meaty in depth, whatever you want to call it, would probably, I think, benefit the commission as well. So, and the commissioners have any other thoughts? Anybody online, the three of you?
there's a lot of information here, if,
You mean the 856 page stormwater report? I mean, it expanded, 568 pages or whatever, I'm exaggerating.
It's pretty riveting though, when you really. You
You did a number on me, literally.
Wait till you get to chapter
Okay.
5.
Yeah. Yes, there's a lot. So you're advocating that more time would be better than less, correct?
correct,
And may I ask some question,
Yes.
Board, Commissioner? So as Matt kind of digs in here, and let's assume we're going to 24th for a minute, right? If as he's getting in there, he feels like we might want to collaborate, he's asking questions or have one of those working sessions that helps him along with his review. Is the commission amenable to that? And maybe run it to Hannah or something if Matt feels that appropriate as he's kind of digging in and going through that?
I would think that's a good idea.
I'd leave it to Matt. And it's Matt's call as far as I'm concerned, and I do not want to attempt to influence how you have in the past, very competently, you're in your company, reviewed this kind of information from applicants, you know the complexity of the project, you've had some working missions. I would leave it up to Matt if it's good with the commission members to decide whether he wants to contact Hannah and let him know that that's happening, and also
I can
allow
support that.
members, if they wish to participate in some additional feedback, although it would be primarily directed by Matt because he would be raising the questions. It's not more development of the project as you've been doing the previous workshops. This is Matt needs to get some feedback. Reaching out to you guys as opposed to waiting 3 or 4 weeks would be helpful.
That's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
It's just in the interest of efficiency, as we've been continuing.
Let
to
me
do.
take a second, Steve, you feel that's okay?
Directed by Matt, as long as he's ready and he's not uncomfortable
Okay,
having his questions answered in that format.
okay. Online, anybody on the Concom have any input on that? You feel it's a good thing, not good thing? Questions?
I'm okay with it.
Noel?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm comfortable with that.
How about you, Neil?
I just want to, maintain that line of not designing the project.
Right, it's understood that the information that Matt would be getting would be just information he would be then incorporating into his review, impartial review, a third-party peer reviewer, okay.
Mike, can I just address Neil's comment? Neil, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I can say confidently in all the workshops we've attended and Hannah, that we did not, nor did Matt, steer any of the development other than inquiries, curiosity questions, tossing of ideas. It was a real collaboration. And under no point was direction received by the design team from either of the three of us as to what should be done. Would you gentlemen agree?
I would very much so, yeah. And thank you for saying it. I think that's-
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, in the interest of time then, if you got your questions answered, Austin?
I'm
You
good. Yep.
Okay, so Matt, you're good with this?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll accept the motion to continue the hearing for the warehouse project 217 Hartford Avenue to the evening of January 10th at, you put down for 24th.
24th.
Sorry, thank you.
No, you're fine.
24th, I had both dates written down on the calendar here. 24th until 7 p.m. Do we have motion?
Second.
No.
So moved.
Steve moved. Anybody online want to make a second?
Second,
Thank you, Neil. Any other discussion?
This is the 24th at 7?
24th at 7 tentatively, if the time needs to be adjusted as we do the week before, the Monday before.
To suggest more time than we allowed tonight.
Yeah, we can work that into the agenda planning too. Thank you. Okay, turning on discussion, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Noel.
Ariana,
Ariana, I can't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, it's unanimous vote. All the online members have voted in the affirmative. Thank you very much. So we will see you people, gentlemen and ladies.
Happy holidays all.
24th. Have a good holiday.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Treat Greg nicely. I know him. He's a good guy.
Right.
My counterpart. He's-
Yeah, oh yeah, okay, but I just, we only have Daniel Wells listed here.
He's the environmental part, not the bowler part.
Not the one.
Bowler.
Okay, we will open the hearing for 0 Maple Street, which is really annoying because we just closed in the 0 Maple Street project. If you remember that warehouse one on the other side of 25.
Yeah.
So I guess any area that has not got an assigned street number will have by the town or whatever will be considered zero. Okay, notice of intent for the installation of electrical line as part of a proposed solar array dash parcel 3 projects on the above referenced subject parcel located within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. Daniel Serber from Boston is the applicant, and Daniel Wells, LAC Environmental Consultants, is the representative. However, it looks like we're having Greg DeBona. Oh, and you are on too, Daniel. Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time and your patience. As a note that it is 12 minutes past when we were supposed to start, we will allow you 12 minutes addition since we allowed you a half an hour initially to provide your presentation, should you need it. However, you do get bonus points if you don't need it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. This is Greg DeBona with Bowler. I'll jump right in with our conversation tonight. As noted, we do have Dan Wells from LEC Environmental online as well, and we also have our land use attorney Allison Fennell with Brown Legal on as well. So if I'm able to share screens, I will give you a very high-level overview of the project, including just a summary of what's happening with the overall golf course that's out there. Talking about the solar project that does span between Bellingham and then mostly into Franklin, and talk about the lot of impact that we are going to be talking about tonight.
Pam, if you could provide Greg with sharing privileges, please. Thank you.
All set.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
Great.
Thank you,
Screen's coming through in a second here.
We're seeing something here.
That you do have paper on this one, I think.
Okay, just making sure everybody can see my screen, which represents an aerial image of the overall current Maplegate Country Club. And I'll zoom in a little bit further, and I'm going to just give you some context tonight. We understand this is obviously our first meeting. We understand that I don't believe a site visit has occurred or any sort of peer review has begun yet on the project. But our hope is that after we give our outline tonight and talk through what we're looking to do, we can then discuss the next steps and actions needed to continue to move the project forward. And for reference, where we are is we on the planning board side, just so you know, we've been in front of Bellingham Planning Board presenting this project initially. We have an upcoming meeting that we moved to January to continue the conversation. And likewise, we are also simultaneously running permitting through Franklin for the southern portion of the project as well. So what you see in the yellow outline actually is the boundary of the overall Maplegate Country Club. It's noted on the plan as parcel 1, parcel 2, and parcel 3. Parcel 1 is being redeveloped under a separate project that also is for solar, but not affiliated with what we're doing as part of the parcel 3 development. In the middle of the site, parcel 2 is actually a dedicated open space that will not have any solar development on it. It's about 5.6 acres of basically preserved green space that's going to remain, that will separate the parcel 1 to the north and then parcel 3 to the south. There will be a access driveway that will connect the two properties in between. Beyond that, no structured development on parcel 2. Parcel 3, which is again primarily in Franklin, but does have a portion of the lot that we're talking about tonight, which is the 32-9 lot. That's located on the far south. That is going to be basically the solar array, and the portion that is in Bellingham is intended to be the connection point for the overhead lines, as well as the underground utility connections, which I'll go forward with in a second. It's worth noting that all the access to parcel 1 and parcel 2 and parcel 3 will continue to come from the current driveway that services the Maplegate Country Club, which is located all the way in the north far left corner of the site. That's part of the existing Bellingham lot 26-9. And again, that driveway would be maintained in the current condition it's in today. Just going fast forwarding. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that drawing in the set you provided, the last one?
No, this is just a separate exhibit that we just created just for presentation purposes. So we don't have the aerial exhibit as part of our drawing set.
There's enough, it's just difficult to follow along when we're looking at different things.
Yeah, I can reference this. This one's called the aerial exhibit. It's a 1-of-1 sheet. It has a date of 5/4/23. Then the next plan is actually a plan set that's part of the submission. It's just the overall site plan. Why I'm showing this is to again give some reference to what's happening in the north, which is all shown in blue. That's the other application that is in front of Franklin and planning, but is not subject to any conservation review for Bellingham and the north portion. That's a separate application by Next Grid Mescalvian LLC. Our application is everything shown in the black and white at the bottom, but you can see how the two interact. You have two large solar fields and a continuous gravel access road that provides circulation for fire and emergency access and maintenance through both solar projects. And again, just for clarity, I've highlighted here in purple on the far left the lot itself that's located within Bellingham. This next plan is the demolition plan D. This is also part of the submitted set. I'm gonna zoom in on this plan just to the area of where we're proposing disturbance and improvements, and talk there in a little bit more detail of what's happening with the site. So as I zoom in to the site, and I put a little red boundary around that 32-9 lot, what you see in yellow and with the yellow hatching is really the limitation of any tree clearing and disturbance within the wetland buffer. The majority of the site itself is primarily wetlands, as you can see with the wetland delineation flags and the offset boundary lines delineating the 25-foot no touch, the 50-foot, and the 100-foot buffers. The portions of the 50-foot buffers from the wetlands and the 100-foot buffers encroach outside of the site all the way into the frontage along Maple Street. And in order to support the electrical connection and tie in basically the proposed solar array that will all be located on the Franklin side of the project, we do require electric connectivity back out to Maple Street. And in order to do that, which would be provided through 2 overhead utility poles and a ground-mounted recloser pad, which I'll get to in the next slide. But we do require some disturbance within the wetland buffer, including some tree clearing and some restoration along the already cleared frontage of the road. I have a little before and after exhibit that I'll show a little bit later in the meeting that kind of gives a good idea of what this would look like in the pre versus post condition along the Maple Street frontage. But this area is roughly a little bit less than 1,200 square feet of existing vegetation that is all within the 50-foot wetland buffer that would have to be cleared, allowing space for the overhead lines, as well as a future, basically a gravel pull-off shoulder, so that for future maintenance or when the utility company needs to come out, if they ever need to service the poles, they have a designated area to do that and be off of Maple Street. The area that is shown in that dash yellow line, that's actually all area that's really just going to reflect what's happening underground. We are intending on basically spanning the wetlands, spanning through the New England Power easement that currently includes a majority of the site, and using basically jack and bore method to drive conduit, sleeving underneath the ground, and then feed conduits through for our electric connection. So that thick dash line in yellow will not have any above ground disturbance to it. The call outs for the sending and receiving pits are noted on the plan, delineating roughly a 10 by 30 foot area that we utilize to create those pits. So again, this was all done in an effort to try to reduce the amount of impact and disturbance to the wetlands and try to keep any of the activity that we're proposing just within the buffer areas itself and not actually disturb any of the wetland areas. Now I have the site plan. Again, the site layout plan D. This was part of the submitted set. The only difference here is I added a little bit of color for tonight's meeting, just so it's a little bit easier to represent on screen. The black and white sometimes is hard to just see on the screen. So zooming in here, I highlighted in purple for you where the above ground disturbance limits are. You can see there in purple the 2 utility poles. So this would all be overhead lines that would span from across Maple Street to two poles. And then there's about roughly a 4x6 concrete pad, which has the recloser equipment. And from that point on, that equipment's all underground, actually, from the pole to the recloser and then to the other side. In the blue color, the cyan color, we show that same area, that's that conduit, that's all underground, but just still noting that it's we're calling it out as disturbance area, but it's all underground disturbance. And we don't expect to do any tree clearing or anything within that area. Again, but the area I was talking about before, with the gravel pull-off area, or like the gravel shoulder along Maple Street, that's roughly about 11 feet wide by roughly a total of 30. It spans out, so it flares, so it's 40 along the front edge and then 20 foot wide along where a vehicle space would end up being. And again, this is not something that we really intend on using. It's just a requirement to make sure that the electric company has access to their poles. One thing, and after I go through my explanation of the project of Dan Wells, just talk a little bit about the wetland delineation work that was done and our request associated with the NOI. But one exhibit that we shared with the planning board, which I think is helpful, was a little bit of a before and after, just showing really what the clearing looks like, what the area looks like today along the Maple Street frontage, and then what we envision it looking like after we're done with our area of clearing and putting in our no pools. So our frontage is on the other side of the street. This pole here that's in the foreground of the picture, that's where we're going to be making our connection across and into our site. And really this pocket of vegetation and what is going to be changed and altered by the two new poles. Flip to the next. Sorry, this is another exhibit. This is not part of anything we submitted as part of our application. So this is just what we're referring to as the before picture. It's dated 10/10/23. This was prepared by our office.
Greg, just for our reference, that, or for the reference of the members, the commission, they may not be sure what they're viewing, that's standing just I'm considered north side, but just before the overpass for 495, looking up towards the project, correct, that shot?
That is correct, exactly. Yeah, you're looking northbound on Maple Street.
All right.
After you come over the overpass, as if you're heading up Maple Street, like you're going to go to the golf course, which is further down on the right-hand side. And then this is the view called after, dated 10/10/23. And here you can see that overhead connection. You see the two poles. You see a bit of the gravel area that we called out as part of the gravel along the shoulder. And you see some of that vegetation that's been cleared back. And again, we're taking out roughly about 1,200 square feet of trees in order to make this utility connection.
How far is the access road that exists from this point?
From this point, so the access road, so where we are on the overall plan, we're right here, actually where my cursor is, which is how to describe this on the plan. It's just kind of in the lower left hand section, right along the frontage of this lot. The driveway itself that goes into the golf course is up
I see it.
roughly, I'd say about 1,500 feet.
Okay.
I can probably actually get a real measurement for you in a second here.
I can do that here. Thank you.
Yeah, but that's the existing lot right on 26-9. That's the opening driveway today. So on this lot,
About 2,200 feet.
okay. So on this, thank you. On this lot, we are not proposing a new driveway. We're just all the vehicle access will come through the lot to the north. And yeah, if I go back to the aerial exhibit, there is another solar project that exists today along Maple Street, kind of almost separating the two parcels from the north and the south. No affiliation of ownership or anything between our project and theirs, but it's just worth noting that this stretch along Bellingham and along Franklin currently does have a separate solar array. And the other lot right directly next to us, which you can kind of see even clearer on this aerial, is the clearing easement from New England Power, who has a pretty wide easement line for transmission poles that run through the majority of that lot. So that's as kind of much as I wanted to cover, just from an overview, understanding the project, understanding what we're looking to do and the disturbance level within this lot itself. I can have Dan maybe jump in for a couple minutes. Dan, if there's anything specific you want to talk about in terms of the wetland work and what we've done out there. But again, from our standpoint, we just like to know that, next steps would be whether or not a field evaluation site visit would be needed, and if you thought a third-party review would be warranted to go and evaluate the area of disturbance as well.
Dan, do you want to steer
thing?
Yeah, if you would, if I would, could share my screen, I can show you, kind of a zoomed in view of the wetlands.
I'll ask Pam to take care of that, please. Thanks, Pam.
All set.
Thank you.
Great. So this is an overview, just the USGS map of the vicinity. So you can see the project sites highlighted in red, and you have the Charles River over to the west. There's another unnamed perennial stream to the west, and then way over to the east in Franklin is Mine Brook. You can see there's no mapped perennial streams near the project. This is an orthophoto view, you know, kind of zoomed in more than Greg was showing kind of the overview, but you can see there's the existing golf course and then that wide New England Power easement. You can see the power lines and then a wide swath of cleared area. And then you can see the western half of this property is pretty much all forest. Most of it's forested wetland. And then the connection, just so you can see on here, right about it's that underground connection is going to go right on the northern edge, so kind of right through here, and then tie in just right around in this area. So this is just an aerial drone view of the overall area. So you can see this is the cursor is right in Franklin. That's right about where the underground pit is going to start, and it's going to cross just above this tower, I think. So it's going to run kind of straight through here. You can see then it goes under there's kind of a pine forest, and then that's when it goes into the wetland, the forested wetland, and then it connects in right about in here. So that's kind of what the whole landscape looks like. But I'll show you the wetlands on the plan, but in general, there's a kind of a shrub swamp wetland on both sides of this access roadway. And so it's not doesn't get flooded or anything. There's no vernal pools over in here. But this seems to drain kind of westward and then into the forested wetland. Then there's an intermittent stream system that kind of flows north to south down through here. And then I think it might even go under 495 eventually. But in terms of, you know, the impact is going to be of the buffer zone is going to be way over next to the road. This is kind of a marked up view of the wetlands. The orange line is bordering vegetated wetland, and then this light blue area is the intermittent stream. And you can see, you know, the project, by doing this underground alternative, they avoided a tremendous amount of, you know, having to cut a lot of trees, run the poles through here. So I think it's a really the best possible from a wetlands and buffer zone perspective, you know, avoiding a lot of impact to the buffer and tree clearing. And so this is what Greg mentioned. So you can see the yellow areas, the 20 foot between 25 and 50 feet. That's the 1,173 square feet of clearing. And Greg showed you the other kind of the erosion control sheet. That's what I was going to zoom in here. But of course, here, there's going to be erosion control barrier put around all of the work. So to prevent any sedimentation into the wetlands. As Greg mentioned, everything's been placed at least 25 feet away from those wetlands. And there's not much room, you know, because of the road being so close. So we couldn't avoid that buffer zone alteration completely, but that is essentially the deal with the wetlands and buffer.
Could you expand on your conduit installation method a bit, please?
Is that something, Greg, you're going to take it?
I'm sorry, can you say it one more time?
One of our commission members, Steve, would like to know, to expand on the boring method a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So the jack and bore method, we've reached out to one of our contractors that's going to be working on the project, that's worked with the NextGrid team previously for other solar installations. And what they're going to do here is they'll use a jack and bore method where basically you create a sending pit, if you will, basically a pit that you have equipment that would basically drive steel casings through the earth underground. Usually it's roughly around 8 to 10 feet in depth. And they'll drive like 20 to 30 foot casings at a time through the path. They can do an entire span of up to around 400 feet, which is roughly what we're proposing here. And then on the other end of it, you have basically an equivalent size receiving pit, if you will, to be able to pull out the sleeving, and basically what you're left with is a steel encased opening roughly about 8 feet or so below grade. And then within that encasing is where you're going to feed your conduits through to make your bank of electrical run underneath. So,
What's
you
the
know, all the
diameter?
work. Go ahead.
Greg, what's the diameter of the boring pipe?
Usually it's around like 18. We'll do probably about an 18-inch casing on this one.
Just for some of the newer members, we've used directional boring successfully on sewer projects, many different projects in town, down on Rentham Road, the sewer across town off of the end of Deer Run. It's been quite successful and limits the impacts significantly.
Yeah, it's a much more expensive installation method, certainly than doing open trench, but it preserves a lot of the above ground vegetation and avoids the disturbance. So you often see it more like on road crossings and things like that, where you don't have to deal with shutting down the road or the road restoration or open trenching. But it is an effective way to run through underground.
The two pits are how far apart? You said 400 feet?
Yeah, I think the total distance is about 400. The closest points are a little bit less than that. I think that I measured 400 kind of from the outer edges of each receiving pit.
How big are the pits themselves?
About 30 feet. About 30 feet
By,
by 10 feet.
30 by 10, 3. Any issues, concerns about hitting ledge? That could put a damper on your project if you hit ledge, I assume.
Yeah, I don't, so we didn't do any sort of test pits or borings or anything out there. We've sent all the information to the contractor. They evaluated it, said they think it's a reasonable method for them for this type of installation. I know that as we get closer to construction, they go out there and they do kind of their own survey work and try to evaluate if there's gonna have any conflicts or anything before they just start trying to drill this thing into the ground. So as of right now, we don't believe that's going to be a concern.
That survey work going to involve doing borings or driving through the wetlands area that they want to do in that line between the 2 points, connection points?
No, they won't make any disturbance within there. They'll just evaluate the areas of the sending and receiving pits.
And is this going to be using the oh, I just had the name of it, the whatever the slurry is they use? Is that the method they're going to be using with the it's the clay slurry they use?
Bentonite, is that what you're?
Bentonite, yeah, the bentonite clay for the directional boring. Are they going to be using that method, or are they going to be using driving it dry?
That I'm not sure about. That I'll have to get a little more detail on.
Yeah, we would need, because that's one of our concerns is that if they do test holes or if they run into issues, we're always worried. One of our concerns in the past has been the breakout of the bentonite into the wetland system.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, do you have a count of the trees? You talked about taking out a number of trees and that 1,127 or whatever the square feet of the disturbance area. Do you have a count yet of that or? Size?
No, we've gone and walked it. We have not identified the actual amount of like trees within there. Most of it's kind of some overgrown brush, but there are some woody species that are along the frontage that probably have a caliper, that would go above, say, a 6-inch tree. So we do realize we have to go out and identify a couple of those trees, but yeah, we don't have a current count.
And on the tree front there, I know this Maple Street is based on paper and in the town's view, a scenic road still, despite all the changes over the years to it. As such, are they going to, do you know if the town has spoken to you, the planning board or any other authority in town about along a scenic road, usually when you do cuttings within a certain distance from the road, which these trees might or might not be, that you have to replicate them somewhere else on site?
Yeah, so we did talk a bit about the scenic road opening permit and whether this would qualify. Right now, based on our walk, it appears that all the trees that we're going to be asking to clear would be within the property itself. The scenic road permit, as I understand it, triggers if we're taking down trees within the right of way itself, within the actual frontage. That portion has already been cleared and cut back. Okay. So we don't have any trees. The edge of our tree line actually really stops at the property line. It doesn't go into the right of way of Maple Street.
What is the right of way on Maple, do you know? Since you just referred to it several times, 6 foot? Is it more?
It goes back roughly about 10 feet from the edge of pavement.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission members at this point? Let me ask our consultant, BSC Group, Matt Byrne. Without having seen more than you've seen in the presentation here, what are your thoughts as far as peer review?
Yeah, it seems like a pretty small impact project in your jurisdiction. And you've got, I would have been concerned with the Jack and Boar from a peer review standpoint, but it sounds like you've got a lot of experience with that. Sounds like Neil.
That's great. Neil, take the lead on that. And he won't bore you with the details, but he's seen it around town a few times. And I have seen it at least once, I think, down the other end of town, or not seen it, but experienced. Go ahead.
I've seen it. I've seen it in the day job too. So
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I
Me
would.
too.
Thank you, Arian. Good, Matt.
I would think that it might be worth the pair of eyes just to work with Dan and make sure you're all comfortable with the delineations and all that good stuff. But
All right. And again, timing for you, because I know they're going to be concerned about timing.
right, getting that started is going to be easier to deal with than getting that letter written for 217.
Yeah, well, that's what I envisioned, but you're going to want to, all right, let me ask you this. In order for you to prepare a proposal for them to review the costs and so forth, the scope of work associated for BSC's review of this limited but important site, what would you need for additional information from Dan or Greg?
I'd want to see the filing that you have,
Okay.
the materials that you have.
Hannah can provide that. I think you have everything.
Yeah, it's actually on our website, public knowledge,
Oh,
so I
okay.
can show you that.
Yeah, grab that, take a look. I could probably get you a proposal, certainly in time for you to talk about it at your meeting on the 10th.
So our proposed plan of action here, gentlemen, is that we would ask our peer reviewer, because of their experience with us and our board's limited experience and or availability for this, to help do a brief but thorough peer review on this project. They are prepared. I don't know if you could hear Matt clearly because he's a little distant from the microphone. He's prepared to come back on the 10th and have provided to you, I think by that time, a proposed cost for you to, as the applicant, review, and the scope of work and so forth involved for both our review to understand what it is he's proposing to look at for us. And then we would be able to continue this hearing until the 10th and see what his plan and proposal is. I think we would want to do a brief site walk. It's a small site. It's easy to access. I think we can get a couple of Conservation Commission eyes on it in the meantime. I'm also going to state that while we are not going to get into the legalities of it here, we understand that the planning board and other town officials, including town council, have been involved in various aspects of zoning and other planning issues. And so we are going to be proceeding in tandem with them, not in advance of them. We can take a certain measure of information gathering, but we are going to definitely want to continue this till at least the 10th, and at that point in time, take a look at what Matt's got for proposal from you. Is that fair for you guys? You're in sync with that?
Yeah, that does make sense to us. The only thing I wanted to follow up on is asking, is it possible to try to get a site visit in before the next meeting? And my only concern is because, you know, we're coming up on winter, snow conditions, that sort of thing. Right now, we have this site well flagged and delineated and kind of ready to go. And we don't want to lose that opportunity before cold weather, snow hits and makes it more difficult.
The only logistic problem from the peer review standpoint is that I wouldn't be under contract.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a
Yeah.
conundrum there. But we don't usually ask BSC to do reviews of sites which we would want them to lay eyes on if they're going to give recommendations and provide input until they are under contract. We can do what we can do, but I think at this point in time, I don't want to put the cart before the horse and ask us to go out of the usual form. Do any other commission members have any other thoughts? Neil or Noel or Ariane or Steve?
The access road is not gated there. Is that correct? That's still not gated?
So at the golf course, there is a gate.
At the golf course where the connection will be, isn't there a utility easement access road that's open?
No, so you're talking about the access drive that New England Power uses, right? That's the kind of like gravel.
Right.
That's not something we're using as part of our site access. So we don't have permission or access to use that for construction or for ongoing with the project. So our only access is through the golf course.
Have you done an alternatives analysis on other ways to get out of the site?
We have other alternatives that do relate through other access easement agreements that would be required either through the other solar project next door, as well as through the easement from New England Power. And we have reached out and made contact on both.
Probably be asking for that general information as part of, we usually require alternatives analysis to be shown that it's been, the due diligence has been done on that. So I think that's what Neil might have been suggesting too.
Yeah, if there's an alternative with less impacts.
Excuse me,
Well, so
Dan.
I'm sorry, let me clarify. I was talking about access for vehicles. So the access.
No, we're talking about access for the line, the electrical line out of the site. Have you looked at other alternatives to running a line out of the site that don't involve any impacts?
Yeah, no, this is, well, I guess besides saying the same answer, which is we did look at running the utilities up through other people's properties and seeking other access easements through the other properties. This is definitely the least impactful option we have through the wetland area.
Can I ask, you go back to the drone aerial view of the site again, please, Dan? Where you were connecting across from the vehicle repair shop? So you're not going across that gray line utility easement?
And
It
we
would
have to
start, one side of the pit would be right here in the existing golf course, and it would go underground
Okay.
and then connect into here. That's what we're looking at.
So the boring method saves you from requesting access.
That's correct. Yes, we are not getting other access through that easement.
And we did look at that wetland, that little triangle that we see it on that picture where the pines run along the edge of the utility easement over to the road, that triangle. We did look at that a few years ago as part of the Maple Street, the drainage work that they did further north on Maple Street. We were looking at that as possible, creating a basin in there. So we have looked at that area in the past, just FYI.
Might have preceded most of the current Concom members too.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. It was probably 5-6 years ago, maybe.
All right, any other additional questions before we set a time? And so long, Matt's got your set of your plan to get this proposal developed. Okay, I will accept a motion to continue this hearing for the solar project, parcel 3 to the evening of January 10th at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Neil. All in favor? Oh, any other discussion? No, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I heard Noel and Ariane together on that. Neil?
Aye.
Thank you, Steve. Aye, okay, it's unanimous. Ayes. Have it. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Look forward to
Thank you.
talking again in January. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good holiday. Thank you.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, and my apologies, Bill and Christina Silva, if she, is that Cesaria's phone? iPhone?
No, that's Chris. Syria, for Wenger.
Chris.
Yeah.
Wait, Caesar.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Caesar.
Oh, like is that, yeah.
First name is Caesar. Bill, good evening. Thanks for being patient.
Nice to see you guys. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Farm Street, what is this with septic systems? You just come to us with nothing but septic systems.
It's all we have, you know?
Yeah, well, that's good.
Hey,
So
don't
you
put-
want,
We're cleaning up the environment. You know?
yes, you are, usually you're coming to us with failed septic systems if you don't like, so this is, always good. This information was provided in the, portal. Oh, and if you, portal, not Dropbox link, I
Yeah.
said it without being prompted. And so hopefully the commission members have had a chance to see it. If not, do you want to, have us, let's see, I'd have to have Hannah stepped out for a second, so I would have to have her try to share what she has. Unless, Pam, just a question for you. Do you have access to the portal information for the Concom?
When you say portal, what do you mean?
When you go to the Concom website, you go down to the bottom left corner, there's a place where we can access as Concom members by clicking on a link there. The hearing information that's being provided for the meeting. The drop, it's sort of like a Dropbox link, I think, but I'm not gonna call it that because Hannah's the one that set it up, but we refer to it as the portal. So it's got the plans, nice meeting. Very similar to what was in the Dropbox setup we had before.
It actually says portal, Mike, so we're not just calling it that.
I hear you. Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to see if there's something that digitally we could take a quick look at while Bill's talking through, unless Bill has his laptop hidden inside of that set of
Yeah.
plans.
We don't have a big electronic.
Yeah, I hear you.
How do I zoom in?
How do you zoom in to the meeting?
Yeah.
Pam could have to help you with that. I wouldn't have done that. I'm usually in person or we're all zooming. If I have to go to the link on the.
Give me a minute. Let me see if I can get in.
Well, Bill, why don't you go ahead and lay it out while you're talking? We're familiar with most septic system types of projects.
Absolutely. Yeah, the site is 8 Farm Street. The house on the lot had burnt down earlier this year, I believe. So Cristiano Silva bought the property. And he's in the process of building a house on the existing foundation.
Yeah, there was no house there. I caught that on the plans that I saw.
I didn't even know it had burned, it's across the street from the office. I don't go up Farm Street.
Oh, it's that in the Farm Street. That's right. I thought.
It's done by me, yeah.
Okay, all right, gotcha. All right, thank you.
So he has a failed septic system that is behind the house, relatively close to the BBW in the back, flagged by Scott Hine, Northeast Ecological Services.
How long ago was it flagged?
Oh, that's a good question.
Years, months?
Oh, no, months.
Okay.
Yeah, it was probably done this fall.
Okay.
The data sheets are in the NOI package.
Right.
So in the back, we have a failed septic systems and we did some soil testing up front to the right of the house. So we plan on putting a new leaching field and septic tank up there. We meet minimum setback for Title V, meaning it's over 50 feet from the edge of wetland. We also plan on filling in the existing system in the back, pump the tank, fill it. And does want to do a small deck on the back of the house, which we also show on.
Yeah, now that I know that it's obviously it is new construction on an existing foundation.
Yeah.
That changes my thoughts a little bit. Is the proposed area that they showed on the plans, which I did see, that the deck that's getting pretty close to the no disturb area. Is that area already currently lawn and disturbed?
Yeah, it's pretty much all disturbed up to the tree line out there from the previous owners. It's relatively unkept. So I did draw the.
You mean it's going back to nature, unkept, or like full of junk and debris, unkept?
Like unmowed.
Unmowed, okay, but it is grass, it's not vegetated with trees.
Oh, correct.
Okay, natural, okay, all right.
Yeah, on the plan, we showed the edge of trees
Right.
coming. And where it's kind of a mess, we drew the siltation barrier to encompass cleaning that all up. He doesn't need to do any regrading other than apply the system.
So the area that you're talking about cleaning up against the tree line, having now a set of plans that we can all see in front of us with.
Mike, you pause.
Yep.
Pam, can you let me share?
Pam, can you let Steve access to share whatever he's got on the screen, my 50% plans?
All set.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And FYI, I do not have access to that portal. I just tried.
I'll have to look into that with Hannah, and maybe that's a way to do that in a pinch if we needed it. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Steve, that's helpful. Back out.
I can't get in the portal either, but I forgot my username and password, so that's my bad.
This is the drawing as a whole. And you tell me where you want me to go, Mike.
Can you zoom in on that real tight, Steve?
Which half? The
Right
house?
there, the front half. The back half is just wetland. We don't really need to see that. There we go. Beautiful,
That's perfect.
beautiful.
Okay, so the tree line that you're talking about, is that the bars and dashes?
The scallop line.
Okay.
That's a
Okay,
quick term.
I'm looking at the dotted lines, the solid lines. Oh yeah, there's a scout. Okay,
Yeah.
so the tree line, you're talking about cleaning up beyond that or
No,
up to that?
Just up to it, you see the heavy.
So you're
dash
staying
line?
outside of the 25-foot no
Yes,
disturb cleanup, because I don't want
absolutely.
you to start cleaning into the no disturb area in the way of unkept brush mowing or something like that. Okay,
We do not want to go.
no, we don't. Okay. So, and the area within the solid heavy dotted, is that the erosion control?
Yeah, the heavy dot is erosion control, correct.
What are you proposing for that?
We're
Self,
looking at-
oh, I see, self fence in the post, that's right. below.
That's nice and solid.
How, the pitch is, it's almost flat there, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it slopes a little bit, kind of parallel with the back of the house, and the backyard's pretty flat.
okay, you're moving the septic to about the only place that it can be with the driveway and the tight property line on the left side, probably the
Yes.
house,
Yeah.
proposed house. Is that sitting on the existing foundation tight, or is it going to be expanded beyond
The existing house?
The new dwelling says existing, but there is no dwelling, you said it's burned down, so building on a foundation, my question is they expanding the foundation? No, it's
Same
working,
size.
same vertical, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
The only thing they're expanding is putting the deck in the back.
Yeah, you can see it on Google Earth, Mike. It doesn't cantilever out over the foundation.
Okay. He's built that.
Foundation actually looks pretty new.
I thought he was building houses and he's proposing to build a house
Oh,
and they're
no.
proposing to put a deck on. So he's built the house, he wants to throw the deck on
Yeah,
and put the septic up to the right.
yeah, they have a
Okay.
building permit.
And all that area to the right is clear, correct? It's yard.
Yes, it's all yard.
So you're not disturbing anything that's already disturbed.
No.
All right, standard septic system, got approval from the Board of Health?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Pipe and
I
storm
had
system.
one question. What is the separation? You got a detail in the top right corner.
Yeah.
Where's groundwater relative to the bottom of the leach field?
4 feet below.
Oh, yes, 97.5, is that 97.5 the water table height, or is that,
The field elevation is 97.
okay, bottom of field level is 97, and then
Yeah,
97.
92.9 is elevation for groundwater,
Okay,
97 water system. We put a little clip over that.
So did you need any waivers?
No, not on this one.
That's rare, huh?
I said it's a first, but now we know it's not a first, Ram. Okay.
No, but it's in the top 10.
There you go, Neil.
All right, additional questions for Bill or from the commission members? Anybody have any other questions or thoughts on this? You've got the DEP.
Yep.
number.
Do we want to consider
I have
throwing
to.
in a couple of posts with badges, Mike?
That's never a bad idea. The applicants usually don't seem to mind, given the proximity and the fact it was rough, disturbed area. What are you thinking? What's the span, about 125 feet?
Thinking maybe three posts with badges spaced along just as a reminder to the future homeowners. Not to go beyond the 25.
Do I hear 6? Do I hear 4? Do I hear 5? Do you guys have any sense about how many feet apart? 125 feet, so 3 would be about 45 feet apart.
Maybe 4.
4, okay. I think that's a good idea. Anybody else have any other thoughts, Concom members? The usual vote post, you get that, yeah, that should be fine, 4x4, whatever,
Yeah.
Around.
Probably put them right at that tree line would be a.
Yeah.
location.
That's fine, that's close enough to the 25, but do not disturb. Looks like parallels pretty close. Any other questions or points? Thank you, Neil.
It seems fairly straightforward.
It does, we always like to see septic systems that have failed be replaced, especially if they're that close to the septic, to the resource areas. So I will accept a motion to provide the limited condition to approve this septic system replacement. We have a DEP number, even though it's not shown on the agenda. I know it is, Hannah said it is on record. And so I accept motion to approve that.
Are we going to want the update? Oh, we're going to put that in the conditions. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah,
Wait, what? But what in the conditions?
The posts.
yeah.
Oh,
the post-
yes.
We don't need to show them on the plan. We don't need a revised plan with those shown. We can just put that in the conditions.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, so with that amendment to the order of conditions, it is standard order of conditions. Does anyone have any other comments, questions? I'll accept a motion to accept to approve the construction of the new septic system. So moved. Steve, thank you. Second, anybody online, please?
Second.
Thank you, Neil. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you. Good sync there, you two. Okay, as approved unanimously, everyone online has said they approve as well. Excellent. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks a
Good
lot.
evening. Sorry for the delay, but I'm
Oh,
glad
no
to get you out of here before. We could pretend it took a whole half hour to talk to you.
We usually just stop that other thing.
They have a first amendment right to say that, no, we don't want that in our.
You're the 187 farm extension, condition extension as well. I don't know if you
Oh,
wanna
87
hit that.
Farm, yes, or
Okay.
just an extension. Under other business, we're gonna jump to 187 Farm Street, Concom members online. We have a number of conditions extension. Bill's housing is involved in that, so we thought we'd ask him to hang out for a moment. And Hannah?
He came into my office asking for extension.
Yeah. Background, you guys saw 187 Farm a number of years ago.
Sorry, which property is this again, Bill?
The one up by Stallbrook. It was Matt Vasolino's property,
187 Farm.
across from Asphalt Engineer.
Okay. That's way too far ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Was that
Actually preceded the Constitution.
Yeah. Vasolino put in a building.
Whether the SJC decides it under Article 16 or whether we have to go to the Supreme Court under the First Amendment, we'll do it. But
Hey, Pam?
Is somebody not on mute?
Yeah, Pam, actually, we think we're hearing Pam's monitoring. Thank you, Pam. She's muted now. That's okay. Sorry, Bill, go ahead. So what, it's opposite asphalt engineering, and why do we need extension?
It ran, the order of conditions ran out.
Have they been doing anything on the site?
Yeah, Matt's been working on it since he got it. Way back when.
Refresh our memory, what was the original
Okay.
approved project that
It
was?
was
got
a contractor's yard. Matt's a landscape contractor.
Right,
Plan is to put up a building. He's gonna have an office and a garage and storage of bulk materials out back. We did drainage, cleans up, everything going out back. Bins on the right side for, different materials with blocks, so that cleans it off.
Remember, that was near a slope we had to worry about.
What is the gentleman name?
Not Vasalino, I think it was.
What would it be under?
187 Farm Street or Stallbrook
Oh.
Business Park, maybe?
I did not, put the site in, but I
I might have it from, previous.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got,
87.
187.
It's been,
I'm sorry, what?
187 Farm Street.
he's been making progress out there. He has the wall along the wetland side all built.
Okay.
Built a stone wall out there. And he's been working on this side little by little. But between COVID and the high cost of stuff, it has slowed the process down for him. We did see the planning board about a month or so ago, and they extended their approval. Site plan's exactly the same.
How
No,
long did they extend for and how long is he asking for?
2 years they extended it.
That's what I said. Okay.
This would be the first extension, if I remember
That's correct.
correctly, and generally 3 years for Concom.
No,
Doesn't have
if
to
he's
be,
only looking
but
for two, and that's why I asked what planning board was, it doesn't hurt to be a single planning board, knowing that if planning board gave him two and we gave him three, they have to go back to planning board if for some reason he needs to extend it as opposed to
yeah,
just going to both of us again. if he
Right.
needs it.
Yeah. 3
I would go with the planning board and go with three.
Well,
Yep.
planning board is two.
Two, I'm sorry, scratch that, two, yes.
Okay, all right, I think two is a reasonable time too. If he has an issue and he's been making progress and still working on, the project hasn't stalled completely, then, I'd say 2 years, see what happens.
Yeah.
But, any other Concom members online, or Steve, do you have any other questions, points?
No, just tell him to, get a little hitch in his giddy up and get going.
Yeah, that's it. Put that in the approval.
Yeah.
But giddy up, how do you spell it?
Yeah.
All right, I'll accept the motion to continue.
Wait, sorry, one question. I
Yeah,
just want
go
to confirm that this is not asphalt engineering, right?
No,
Correct.
it's across. the
Correct, this is
street
not
from-
asphalt engineering.
Across the
Okay.
street from asphalt engineering is where it's located, Ariane, that's what they, Bill's saying.
Okay,
Okay, so I will accept a motion to extend the order of conditions for 187 Farm Street for 2 years from today, from the whatever meeting date, and
that would be 2025.
to 2025. Thank you. And accept the motion.
So moved.
Steve, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Noel. Any other comments, questions? Hannah has one.
I had to edit the document, so if you've already signed it, you need to re-sign it. Because it reflected 3 years previously, but now it reflects 2 years.
Okay, so we will need to look for a dot loop document, which will be the order of conditions extension that Hannah will send out in the near future for us to sign, because it had to be modified to show 2 years that we've just approved.
It deletes, yeah, it
That we
deletes
just
the signatures
talked
when
about.
I edit the document.
Thank you. So, we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion, any other discussion? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4 ayes plus myself makes 5 ayes, unanimous, including online voters, or all voted in the affirmative. So we thank you, Bill, for that. And if you want to hang around and talk about anything else, feel free.
All that fun stuff.
Yeah, and none of the other stuff we have talked about, we, just kidding.
We did clear the room. Look at
Yes, we
that.
just, we know how to do that. I got a few more bad jokes, so.
I can email you when it's all signed, so you can have, yeah,
Excellent.
About the 8 bar.
for both things. No, I was talking about the
Okay,
extension, but I can also give him the signs then too.
Or do we kind of need that original?
Right.
Okay,
All right, well, thank you, guys.
thanks, Bill. Have a good holiday.
Good night,
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Okay.
So Chris is still here. We want to jump to
Chris,
Wenger.
can you hear us okay, Chris? Thank you for being patient and sitting there.
Maybe.
Oh, Chris, if you're still there.
Oh,
Don't answer, there, he's trying to cut in and out, cut in and out. Chris, you're still muted, are you trying to speak? Okay, well, we are in the process of working on, this is Wagner Lake, but it's really Lakeview Pond or whatever. Anyway,
Yeah, that's
the
true.
Wagner property, Lakeview Pond off of 126 opposite the middle school in town is, something we've talked about a few times. Last week came with the commission. We had decided that we were gonna have the DPW, wrong acronym, provide a more formal process instead of just, doing a, proposed, drainage pipe through the berm and into Lakeview Pond to help the abutters who are being affected by town drainage through their property from the street on Stephen Road. To go through a more formal process of notice of intent and so forth. Chris and others at DPW and Jesse and Sean, thank you, I was saying Scott and Sean, have been working with Hannah to go through some of the paperwork involved in filing the NOI, and they still have some additional.
Yeah, so I've talked to DEP, I've talked to Chris, Chris disappeared, maybe his phone wasn't working. After talking to everyone, it seems like the best course of action, is to file a DEP filing with the local, cause they've only filed locally so far. And this pipe that they're looking to replace was put in before 1996, or no, sorry. It might have been after 1996, but there was no permit, and so that's the only, like rule that they could go in and like do whatever they wish to maintain it. So since there's no permit, they are gonna come to us with a formal filing. And they are going to give us a better site plan.
All this day being DPW.
DPW, yes. And they hope to get it to me by December 22nd, so they can be on January 10th.
So did the DPW say by any chance that they were the ones that installed that inch pipe, or was it Wagner or somebody else, unknown party? Chris, can you hear us?
Can you know, hopefully he can answer that, because I'm not 100% sure on that.
I saw you cut out, and hopefully you're able to connect, Chris. Darn iPhones. I have an Android, so. Chris, can you hear us? No, you keep trying to connect audio.
This is like a seance.
Yeah, Chris, we see you in our view here, but can't hear you. If you're able to speak up, Chris, just keep trying to speak, so when we hear you, we will know to ask you a couple of questions we might have, but hopefully you've been hearing what's been said so far, even if you cut in or out once or twice by Hannah to summarize the situation. I know the DEP filing will require some additional time and work, but hopefully that will proceed. Have we had any conversations with Wagner recently about the dam at the far end of the pond being kept lower?
So based on what Chris has told me, anytime there is a heavy rain, DPW has just directly reached out to them, and that's the system they've done. There isn't a formal O&M plan.
Okay. Yeah, one of the thoughts I had was this time of the year, if they're not using it, I believe they use the pond for irrigation. That's one of the reasons they have the dam
Yeah.
to go there. This time of the year, they're not obviously not growing anything, so that during the heavy rains that we might be like just a couple days ago getting, that if they could just keep the dam to the maximum level lower, that's doable and reasonable, that would really help. I know that one of the abutters, Bernadette, who's been at the meetings a couple times now, has mentioned that it has improved somewhat recently. She wasn't sure why. That was before this last 4 inches of rain that we got, so I'm not sure how it is at the moment, but that's a seasonal thing, but it would help provide some ongoing relief.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as we know, the Wagners are amenable to continuing to work with us, which is good. Hannah, could you share that other piece of information you told me, I think the other day in updating me, that it appears that some of the wetlands between the abutters on Stephen Road who back up to the wetlands, which separated the abutters from the berm that goes around the pond and retains the pond, is actually owned by a third party.
Oh, the other end of the pipe. Actually, I haven't talked to Chris about that yet.
The other end meaning the
The pipe that they're
Abutter
looking to replace,
Yeah.
One is touching the pond, and then the other is touching an abutter that we haven't even spoken to. And it's a trust, realty trust, I think.
Right, so we assumed that I at least assumed both sides of the berm were, and the wetlands on both sides, wetlands and the pond were on both Reichner's, but that does not appear to be the case, so it just complicates it a little bit more. But, we'll continue to work on that, we might have a lot more information on that, it's a realty trust, and we're gonna have to be involved with them. I think that the state, mosquito control, and Norfolk mosquito control is prepared to come in and provide support, but they're not gonna do anything unless we want them to, I believe.
Right.
And
Yeah.
even though they're a federally directed agency or whatever the term is they use, they still want to, and aren't required to go through us per se. They still want to work with us. They're not going to want to do things without our support.
Yeah, that complicates things a little because the filings have to reference a piece of property.
The pipe itself
It
is.
encumbers that deed.
Good
So
point.
what does it mean?
So I think what Neil is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, is that if that piece of pipe projects into their property on the outside of the berm, for lack of a better description, into their wetlands a little bit, that now is something that has to be referenced in that person's deed, and they would be responsible in some ways for making sure they provide, if nothing else, the DPW with access to have Chris and company come in and clear it periodically to keep the drainage, which again, just to reference it one more time, it's stormwater primarily coming from Stephen Road down an old drainage pipe through an easement behind some of the abutters and coming into and emptying into this wetlands. It's probably done many decades ago. And with or without permitting, I don't know, but that's what the town has. So it's the town that's sort of impacting this and making it worse. There's a beaver problem back there and other issues, but that wetlands area will continue to be a problem for the abutters, and they shouldn't have a negative impact for the town. So that's why DPW is very amenable to working on maintaining it, but they would need access and permission, and it would need to be referenced if the realty company ever sold it. I don't think they've ever built anything, and it's all wetlands and water that, you know, is fairly deep looking in a couple of spots when I walked through it. That's a good point, Neil. We'll have to investigate that and get more information. It's something that's gonna slog forward, but at a deliberate pace, just to reassure the members of the commission that we're not gonna, you know, jump to do anything too quick. And the DPW seems to be very supportive of working with us on this and trying to improve the situation for the abutters, et cetera. So we'll keep you all posted on it. Anybody have any additional questions on that before we move along?
What is our overall plan with this at the moment? At a high level.
I will find out what our options are to legally and physically and environmentally support the taxpayers and abutters who have come to us verbally, at least not through a formal process because they didn't know how to do it, for relief from water coming onto their property substantially onto their property and flooding it periodically from what appears to be a source that's caused by the town. So it's complicated because it's going into other people's property. It's not going directly just into the abutter's property. It's, you know, affected by the pond, et cetera. So it's to find out what our options are. We haven't promised the abutters that we'll do anything other than continue to look into it. And that's what I intend to hope to do with the commission, and see where it leads us. See what the filings
It
result.
seems like it's stalling a little bit.
Well,
Yeah, part of that was just not because of all the variables, trying to figure out what the correct type of filing it was. And like, there's rules where DPW can do things. Like, they're trying to work with us, but there's some things that they can kind of do without us as well. So it's just like trying to organize that. That's why it's been stalled.
right, and the fact that it's not on like town property, it's on private property,
Yeah.
and yet it's impacting other private property owners negatively, and, you know, this third-party realty company now complicates it. The simplest thing, quickest thing would have been to try and see if it did a long-term, potentially long-term solution would have been just a large pipe as DPW suggested, but that probably would have been premature and ill-advised to just go ahead and just put that in place when we are dealing with so many other parties and not just, if it's just on town property, frankly, they probably, DPW probably could have just done it because they have the ability to do some of that. That's what Hannah's referring to. Like if there's an easement along the side of the road that the town controlled, they could notify us, but they would probably just go ahead and do it.
Is there one?
No, because they're still subject to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection
Right.
Act.
Right.
Correct,
So,
correct.
Right,
in
just in
addition to
general.
being ill-advised, it may have some of those activities may have in fact been illegal.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's good that we pulled back on it. Thank you, commission members, for making sure that that helped happen, and I think we want to continue to do that, but, I'm sorry, Steve, you start to say one more?
Is there one particular butter or that
There are,
That's concerned
is
or,
holding any progress up?
no,
No.
it's not the butters, it's all the mystery parties where the water's going to Wagner's, this third-party realty company, the fact that we have to do the filings with both the state and the local bylaws. The DPW is working to do that.
What is the next step and who's doing it?
Chris is filing a DEP filing, an NOI to me by January 22nd so that we can look at it with a site plan on the 10th.
So that will be on the agenda probably at that point in time. We don't need to take any vote on it
Right.
at this point.
Most likely. Yep.
Okay. I'd ask Chris if he has any other comments, but it looks like you're still muted, hopefully. Chris, if you can hear me, just reach out to Hannah and ask any additional questions when you're able to talk to her tomorrow or whenever. Well, sorry you weren't able to audibly connect to us and participate, but hopefully you're hearing this. And Hannah, on the off shot that Chris isn't able to actually even hear us.
Yeah,
Just check that.
relay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have 32 David Street on other business. Hannah.
Okay, so this kind of also relates to electronic signatures. When we all voted, agreed that we were gonna do electronic signatures, it wasn't formally written down on the minutes. I have no proof of that, and so land court isn't accepting, what's the last page? Every time you turn in something, the
Signatory page or whatever.
recording it, like they aren't letting people record their certificate of compliances. The way to fix that is for us to formally vote on it right now, and then Larry, town clerk, will tell them, and then it's all good. They just need permission formally.
This is one situation.
No, this is,
No, it's not a second.
uh,
The other one isn't in a rush, and they're totally fine with us fixing the problem. 32 David was concerned, and so I have a paper copy, which doesn't matter now because we don't have enough people to sign it, but they wanted,
they want a paper copy signed.
yes, because they were unsure about the process, and they were like, why don't you just do it the old way? And I said, that's
Why
fine.
don't they get short?
This day being Larry or in town hall or the land court?
Say that again.
Who is the day that wants it to do it on paper versus?
The lawyer that is, these people, 32 David, are trying to sell their property. And so they are closing out on they needed a certificate of compliance. And we originally did it electronically. Land court didn't accept it because we didn't have it formally voted. They don't want to wait for our vote. That's why they want a paper copy. Does that make sense?
Okay. Oh, we have to. I thought it was.
We didn't vote on it?
I thought we did, but we have zero proof of it, so it just didn't make it into the
But
minutes.
the vote would be for future signing, all future signings.
Yes.
Okay, so we never officially voted formally and made a note of it in the minutes, which will be done. So tonight to do accept electronic signatures as a method of signing, is that how we're phrasing it?
Yes, and anything that backtracks, so things that we've signed in the past month or two, they will be accepted from land court.
They will.
Yeah, they will backtrack and accept it as long as
Except
Larry
it's
did,
32 days because of the timetable.
because they're choosing not to wait for us to turn in minutes. It has nothing to do with land court. It's
All right.
their preference.
Right. So even though we vote tonight, the fact that we're not able to process, review and approve and put legally in the public record domain our minutes saying that we approved electronic votes going forward, or electronic signing rather, going forward. This signature paper request for 32 David is because they need to get things going faster than waiting probably another month or month and a half because they're closing on some property. Is it possible for other commission members to stop by town hall in the next 2 days before the weekend?
I could
Just
stop
on-
by tomorrow towards the end of the day.
What is end of day for
Yeah.
you? I'm trying.
So I'm working from home tomorrow and I have an appointment at Walgreens at 5:45, so I could come before then. I could probably come before 5 if the office closes at 5.
Yeah, town hall closes at 4:30, but like I can make it.
She can
work.
meet you in
Yeah.
Walgreens is right next door.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So you just.
What time do you open up, Hannah?
Our office, Katrina's in our office at 8 AM. I have a site visit tomorrow morning at Lakeview Estates.
But Katrina's the new ish.
Assistant to planning board, zoning board and
Right.
conservation.
So you know, some of you may not have met her, Katrina, I met her once briefly. So she's there, you could use certainly her, you think you could by tomorrow's, Neil, is that what you're saying?
No, more like Friday, maybe.
Is she work
Um,
Friday?
Yeah.
Sorry.
What if we were to just vote on those conditions now? Get the vote recorded and then resubmit the dot loop tomorrow. And we all signed it.
Because Larry needs the minutes. I asked him today if like the recording would count, and he said it needed to be minutes, like written, like Tina's job.
And accepted, voted on minutes, not just the minutes. If she typed them up tonight and gave them to Larry tomorrow, that would
Okay,
be
so this
approved
That's true.
minutes.
You're right.
There'd be draft minutes.
So this person has had the dot loop signed for how many weeks?
I think I did this in September.
And they're raising objection now.
Mid-November. It was after our meeting. It was right before Thanksgiving, probably. But I couldn't obviously bring this up till now. Yeah.
Well, I think they may show a little bit of patience on their side. But
I'm a little confused. So they can't record an electronically signed document because we don't have minutes that say that we approved electronic signatures?
Yes,
Correct.
each town, and I think this started in the beginning of COVID, each town needed to have a voted like decision about electronic signatures and filed that to land court. So
I
that.
thought that,
Go
I
ahead.
thought we approved it. I don't think we signed it or like filed it with land court, but I thought that we approved it as soon as you mentioned dot loop.
Right, but I don't have proof of that.
I-
You get-
It
because
it
we
never
already
made,
approved
it
the
never
minutes.
made it to the minutes.
What about the previous recorded meetings?
We approved those minutes already.
Hmm.
Well, because it was, when we voted on that, it was the beginning of September. We approved those minutes.
Yeah.
So we can't go back and edit those, can
No,
we?
no.
Oh,
I think what
Oh.
Erin is saying is if you look at the past minutes, didn't we discuss that and say verbally that we approved it?
it's not in the minutes.
Okay, so the
100%.
transcribed minutes that we have, Ariane, where we might have talked about doing dot loop, don't reflect an actual vote on it. So the simplest course to get town hall to go to land court and say they voted on and approved it is to do a vote tonight. It'll go in the minutes. That'll take a little bit of time to go through our approval because we have to approve those minutes before Larry can say, yeah, that they not only voted on it, but it's in the approved minutes. That will be
Do we
on-
have to post it on our agenda before we can vote on it?
It is, it's on under
Other business. It's under
Electronic signature.
Electronic signatures on other business.
Nice.
So it is on the agenda. So.
Nice.
We vote on that. I mean, it's a courtesy to the people at 32. David, you're not wrong, Steve. I think this has been going for a while, but I don't know the timing of when they were looking to sell their house, how long they've been in the loop trying to get this resolved, et cetera, or even if they were clued into it. If we can get 2 signatures in addition to Steve and myself tonight, it's a valid. By the way,
Oh, yeah.
as you
hold on.
may need to remember, or Noel, weren't able to make, but I want to mention this. The open meeting law training that we had, was it last week?
Yes.
Last week was pretty good, I thought. Other Concom members may think differently, but one of the things that Steve had asked this question, and it was great that he did, because I was hoping to, but he beat me to it, and that's good. He asked the lawyer what our quorum requirement is with 7 official appointed members when it's full capacity commission and 5
2
current-
vacant.
and we have 2 vacant, and she said the quorum requirement is 4. So we go off of the full quorum, the full appointed commission total when you're getting a quorum, which would be 4 out of 7. So whether we have 5 people or not, we still need to get 4 people at a meeting and or voting on things to make it legit. I'm assuming Hannah's checking on this with people like our state writer, whether that is true for documents as well, whether 4 is a requirement, just like a quorum, or whether some number less than.
Well, there's different requirements. and I don't know the details off the top of my head, but there's a majority that's needed for a certain amount. And
For
there's a
signatures?
quorum.
You talking about for signatures or votes?
I don't know. I
Well, whatever.
don't recall right now, but I know that there's two different categories. And a quorum is like the number of total, like she said, 4. But I think a majority is number of people presently serving on the commission. I don't know when those would apply, but
Yeah, I mean,
something to keep in mind.
let's put it this way, whenever we get to the point where we're less than 4, we probably are gonna have.
Well,
to
the
be
majority
very
of
careful.
We're
seven-
struggling.
Right, majority of 7 is where she's, Ariane's saying maybe majority might mean 5. Out of the 5, you can consider the 5 to be the total, and then majority will be 3. Okay, all right, so back to the original question I have. If Steve and I sign, Noel, sounds like you can come down, I'm sorry, Ariane, sounds like you can come down by no later than 6, so that Hannah can get out of there, or 5 rather, so that Hannah can get out of there. Okay, that'd be great, she has a long drive, and.
I could also probably try during lunch if you're around during
I
lunch.
would love
She
that.
would love that even more,
Okay.
because nothing like getting on the commute to Quincy.
Okay, lunch is 11:45 to 12:30.
Perfect.
Okay, she'll be here. And Neil, what were your thoughts Friday morning, you think, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Neil, Noel, any possibility in the next 2 days you could get by?
I can't do anything during the daytime. I've got field work this week.
Okay,
Well, another incentive to signing is you have to have this signed to get your stipend.
oh, yeah.
So if you wanna get paid,
That doesn't do double.
I'll have to check.
Why does
later.
our stipend revolve around signing this?
No, she's holding up another piece of paper. She's holding up the
Threatening you.
stipend signing sheet, which we normally do this time of the year for our next 6-month stipend, but she's gonna also check and see if we can do that on dot loop. If we can't, then you guys, if you wanna get paid, you're gonna need to come in and sign that sooner than later. Okay. Neil, if you could just keep Hannah posted, if we run into a problem, we run into a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll do the best we can to
at
get
the
that
end
signed.
of the day, yeah, if they have to wait, they have to wait, but
Right.
they know. So
Okay, so I would like to, before we move away from this electronic signatures thing,
vote.
make a formal motion to, and you want to write this down for Tina or whatever? By the way, Tina is not able to make tonight's meeting. She's still dealing with some medical stuff, and I believe tonight's her birthday as well, so we wish her the best in all avenues there. She'll be taking the transcribed, the online minutes, off of the, recording, I guess. So,
Did we vote?
no, how do you want to think we want to phrase this? You heard Larry's describe what we need to happen.
Yeah, do we have to specifically say that we're including the ones that we've already signed electronically? In our,
If it's legit to do so, we can say it, and if it's not legit, then they can disregard that portion. I mean, if we don't have to say it, or if it's not necessary, I think. All right, so let me try I would accept the motion to have the Bellingham Conservation Commission use dot loop or any other type of approved electronic signature format for all future signings of Conservation Commission documents, approvals, etc. From this date forward, and
which have already been voted on during a public meeting.
which may have been voted on during a public meeting, but not.
No, which were voted on.
Well, which were voted on in previous public meeting, but were not recorded in the minutes, and now are being so done. And
Well, no, all of them, sorry. Sorry, I'm destroying your,
kind of, you want to make one? Go ahead, I'll help you out. I'm
Sorry.
open to, go ahead.
I don't know if I could, sorry, I can only correct people, I can't do it right. But I'm thinking, unless I misheard you, you said that we may vote on, but we have to vote on them before we can issue them, so. And we have to vote on them in an open hearing. Or open meeting.
I'm just making a motion to use dot loop or other electronic signature formats for future signings of all Conservation Commission documents that are approved to be signed.
There's
Okay,
question Ariana's raised, approved to be signed. That approval has to be done by vote in the meeting.
yeah,
Right, that are, okay, that are
Yeah.
approved to be done, to be signed. And though that approval comes in the form of a public meeting by vote of the commission members.
yes. Thanks, Steve.
That hopefully will capture it. Hopefully Tina's not totally confused, but she hears this playback, but we'll try to get that cleaned up and written up for. So I will accept the motion for that. I didn't make a motion, I was accepting one for it. You want to make it, approve it? Anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second,
Second,
thank you, Ariane. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Let me.
Aye.
Wait, 1 second.
Sorry.
Let me formally ask for a roll call vote on this because I was told during that training that there are times when roll call votes are very helpful. This may be one of those, especially with so many people online. Steve,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
Ariane,
aye.
Noel,
Aye.
Michael Heron, aye. Okay, it's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. So that should be pretty clear for the record.
We signed that October 11th,
Find it.
32.
Okay.
2 months ago.
Oh, 32 days too soon?
32 days.
Okay, all right. Okay, next, 179 Main Street.
They're not here, I mean. They've had trees removed in the past, with Anne and Cliff. I couldn't find a filing of it. They were asking about steps. I said that it would be best for them to come in to describe their past, but most likely, looking at their property, that very much has wetlands, that would be a filing, of some sort. It's not an emergency, so I did not suggest an emergency certification. But they're not here tonight to speak, so there's not much else to say.
Right, I guess one of the things that this, when Hannah mentioned they come to her about this, was that I had the question back in my mind, and Neil, you have the longest history here. I don't recall, other than an emergency where like a house may have a tree in a wetlands or a resource area that is imminent danger of falling on people, property, et cetera, that they have generally, Cliff or Ann or anybody else in the commission has generally just given walk by sort of non-hearing, not coming into the to a meeting, approval to take trees down. Is that your recollection too, Neil, or not?
I recall one instance in 20-something years, and it was the dam.
Okay,
The dam was gonna fail. That's the only one I recall.
you got a damn good memory. That was a long time ago. Okay, so what I said to Hannah was, what we want to do when somebody comes to her as the town administrator, the most reachable person of all of us, is to say for a request like that, especially if it wasn't urgent, like there wasn't a house, in danger, or people, kids playing underneath or something, that they come to us in a hearing that past precedent of Ann or Cliff or somebody who is in town and amenable to walking by and taking a look at something may or may not have happened the way this person seems to think or believe it did, but that we don't going forward want to have it happen that way. Is that the agreement in general of the group? I mean, there could be an exception, but the general policy would be Hannah wouldn't be giving let me drive by and say it's okay to cut trees down in your wetlands kind of thing.
Absolutely not.
Completely agree.
Noel, Ariane, you on board with that?
I agree with Neil.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's enough direction, I think, for Hannah and,
I would expect you don't want that authority.
No. Yeah, I just wanted clarification, because I don't have history to back me up, so,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Internship, we have had a request from our administrator to create an internship. She's done a good job of drafting something up, I think. Have any of you had a chance to look at it on the portal? If not, we can get a 2-minute description of it and you can look at it if you'd like. What would need to come out of this if the commission is on board with it and wants to support this internship proposal is we would need to request the money to fund the proposal, which is not a lot of money, to come from the, which fund?
There's actually 2 funds we could pull from. One is the Wetlands Protection Fund. The other one is the Conservation Trust Fund.
Trust fund, otherwise called administration fund.
Yeah.
So there's 69,001 and
Actually, I'm gonna correct you because I learned more today. One is like somewhere close to 150,000. The other one is in the range of 123,000.
So-
123,000.
So even though these are funded by, one is funded by state fees that we could share
The state filing, the other one is funded by interest
on
on the local filings.
the local filings or on the local, bonds and stuff like that, the interest we're on bonds, no, okay. So those two funds are available to us, but they're not controlled by us to spend without approval of the selectmen, that's my understanding. So we would go to the select board if the Concom members feel that this internship proposal is a good one, to request the funding for that to come, it's not gonna come from their coffers, so I assume the selectmen, while they do control it, wouldn't have any issue with us spending a modest amount of money. Has anybody had question about this proposal? Have you had a chance to look at it?
I only had one comment. Has everyone read it?
Ariane, Neil, Noel, I know I've read it.
I have not read it.
Okay,
I read it.
In the opening sentence, it's very good. I just had a quick thought when I read it, which is, in the opening sentence, it reads, this position is for undergrads and graduates looking to gain experience in local government. I thought that sounded exclusionary to college students only, and there may be a sharp high school grad that might feel left out by that language.
I think it's something.
Anna has.
I can get down on that. Perhaps qualified individuals.
Just since you've read it, but Neil and I don't know if Noel, did you get to read it, just so I know how much to speak on this?
No, I haven't had a chance to read it.
Okay.
I'd definitely like to.
The really short thumbnail is this is a 6-month, potentially from January through June, July,
Yeah.
into July, whatever, period. Position, part-time, 10 hours a week, approximately for $15 an hour. So this is not something that an adult who is looking for a full-time work or anything is going to be looking for. And I think a student of some sort, whether it's a sharp high school student that's mature enough or a college student is looking for experience, is probably the right pool of people to be looking at, to support a lot of the paperwork things that are going on that,
My
anybody else
suggestion would be if you were to simply add after the word graduates or other qualified individuals,
Yeah.
comma. And then
That
one word.
covers
I also think it should make it clear that it's for one intern. Cause it
Oh.
starts off like plural, but then it talks about the intern.
Okay, good
Okay.
point, thanks. Okay, we can go through it as much length as the commission cares to, either tonight or at another time if they wish to. Hannah did point out, given the holidays and everything else, and the fact we'd like to have the positions start to get geared up and so forth by January, and it's gonna take some time to find the right person, interview them and so forth. That we might want to move this along as expeditiously as possible. I don't think it's a huge, a controversial issue or to do something like this. It's never been done to my knowledge because they've always had Clip and Ann there, but that's not the case right now. And I think that's just.
They do have interns with DPW.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
so we have interns
Right,
around.
that's not Concom, so I missed that.
Yeah, yeah,
The other thing I have asked Hannah to check into is we would have to, if this is approved and we get the approval from selectmen, check out how an intern is paid logistically, so that they get paid regularly. We don't have to put in a request every week or something silly like that to get a check cut or sign, us do dot loop signatures all the time for it. They'd have to probably go through the town. I don't know if they have to deal with insurance and other stuff, as even a part-time intern kind of thing, but since there are other internship positions in town, I'm sure that's just a matter of some paperwork.
I'm also curious about, they must be able to come to the Conservation Commission meetings. Is that part of their 10 hours? Cause
Yeah.
that could be like their only thing that they do in the
Oh,
week.
Stop,
yeah.
never.
Yeah, I would require them to come, because I think that's like a clear example and practice of local government in the works, so.
So is that meeting paid or unpaid?
I would have that paid.
Yeah, I think if you have them on site here, you almost have to pay them because if they come as, well, I don't know.
I want
Yeah.
them paid.
Yeah.
But aren't they also gonna help you in the office setting?
Yes, yep.
That's how they learn their job shadowing and stuff, there's the skills, as well as doing some stuff
So
independently.
maybe like one of the meetings per month?
Or and as an alternative, if I see what you're driving at there, and if we are looking like that, realistically, they would probably, with the meetings included, be spending like 15 hours to do what you anticipate in the office, not counting any meetings, but
Yeah.
then adding in those hours, that we can amend the estimated number of hours per week and dollar amount upward to be reflective of that. So say 15 hours per week approximately, varying somewhat at $15 an hour, with a ballpark request at the upper end, not to exceed amount or whatever the
Yeah.
selectmen would have to have for a request from us. We'll have to check that out. We'll ask Dennis that, how do we request it and how does it have to be
Yeah. Cause
phrased?
then you're also getting into like, are they hitting over 37.5 hours?
Oh, we would,
Oh, no, that
no, we don't want that.
that's not happening.
Not gonna do that. So what's the thought of the commission? Do you want to review this at some more depth and in length? Do you want to do something other than that?
So who will do the interviews?
I mean, it's open to anyone to be a part of it, but me, because I will be working with them.
My thought was, and the commission can chime in on this, that I would let Hannah do the initial screening and then come to us with a final one or two people, depending on what her response is. She might get almost no one to respond, but that we would at least hope to interview one or two people. And then if we'd open up to any of the commission members who want to, we don't want to make it appear to be a ganged up feeling to the person that's being interviewed, but then again, they should be able to handle, they should be able to. Well, yeah, that's part of the process, right, Steve? Okay, Steve, toughen them up. So if that sounds, does that make sense to the rest of the commission, that, Hannah would take the lead, try to find some qualified people, however many, within a reasonable time period, get back to us and invite us to do some sort of sit down with those that want to and are able to.
Yeah, I think before we do that, Neil and Noel should have time to review it as well. And then we should accept based on whatever changes come out of that.
All I need tonight is that we approve to pay somebody. We can always edit what they duties and all that kind of stuff, like what they focus on. Right? I mean, that's how I feel.
I think, and your reasoning for doing that is because the timing it may take to get town selectmen approval for spending the money
Right.
and be able to, I mean, for some reason, the selectmen said no, then we gotta go back to square one and figure out why and how and whatever.
Yeah.
But, that even the paperwork would take a while, if you want to try to get us up and running by January. With the holidays.
I make a motion to approve presenting to the select board a position request for paid intern position.
Yeah, everybody hear that from Steve?
Yeah.
No, Neil, you guys got that?
Yeah,
Okay. Does that make sense? Does anybody want to second that? Steve, that was a motion from Steve.
Yeah, I'd like to second that.
Okay, thank you, Noel. All right, further discussion on that? Does that seem pretty clear? I think that would give Hannah enough to get moving this forward to the point where we, again, we're gonna, probably the initial thing would be Hannah can reach out to, or I can talk to him if she wants me to.
Now, we're not approving this as it's written,
No.
just the concept.
Right, so and then I would, while the commission members take the time to read through it, come up with questions if possible. That if we are going to vote on the formal acceptance of an internship proposal, and Hannah can tweak it if she, see, you gotta be really careful here after you have the training. We can't get into back and forth between members and Hannah saying, could you tweak this internship this way, and could you tweak it? I don't think that that's appropriate. That's having, bordering on the do not do it thing the lawyer advised us against. So, if by the 10th, we are ready to vote on a proposal for an internship, and we have talked to Dennis in the meantime, done nothing more than sounded out how we would go about doing that if it is approved by the commission, Does that sound reasonable? And then Hannah can, by the tenth, know that she's basically can start calling the next day potentially to people and saying, or putting a flyer on the whatever means she plans on getting the word out. That sound good?
Sure.
Yeah, sounds great.
And we're not voting on the cost right now,
No,
right?
No, I think Steve's intent was to just vote on the fact that we would approve the
concept
concept.
of a paid intern position, so we can, you guys can finish that, and that would be the vote. And then you guys can read this, submit comments. I've already submitted mine. And then we can vote on the formal structure that she is presenting to the select board, including pay amounts at the 10th meeting.
That's the one thing I need, is select board can't do anything for us until I show them a number, a budget number.
So let's add to the motion. Paid amount of $15 per hour for
Right.
how many hours?
So, what you suggested, which I agree with, is to not exceed 15
Hours.
hours a week, which is what we did with Matt's contract, actually, earlier this year for this fund.
15 hours a week is fine.
Yeah.
We can use that language.
Okay,
So the
Up
motion,
to and not exceeding, right?
correct.
so the motion is to accept or vote on the position of paid intern at $15 per hour, not to exceed 15 hours per week.
Okay.
Noel?
Noel, did you want to move that again, or do you have to move it again?
I made the motion. Someone would second it.
I'll second it.
Marianne, thank you, second day. Okay, so the revised motion as described by Steve, which I won't try to repeat because I'll mangle it, and Tina can probably get a clean version from your statement, Steve. Just an FYI, so I won't get into that now. Okay, so
Let's vote.
any other discussion? No? Okay, all in favor?
Steve, aye.
Aye.
Noel, aye. Marianne?
Aye.
Aye. Neil? Oh, Neil.
Aye.
Oh, thank you, Neil, and aye from me. Okay, just an FYI from the 4,600
What, how much I budgeted?
originally.
I said 4,000, so. it'd be
So
a
it's
little
about
bit
50,
higher.
I just did 15 hours, $15 an hour, 15 hours per week times 24 weeks, which is 6 months. $5,400 is about what we would be looking to the selectmen to not to exceed amount for the internship if they're looking for a dollar amount based on what we just approved. 15 hours per week, not to exceed. The rate was $15 an hour, 6-month period of time. So if we have to throw a number, then that's what would be proposed for the selectmen to give the sign off. Again, we can revise the internship proposal as we wish to by the 10th. Okay.
Very last thing,
That you have this.
79 Hickson is on dot loop. It is a woman who realized that she never got a certificate of compliance for the pool that they put in on Hickson Street. I went out there, I looked at it. It's exactly as the as-built,
How long did they do it?
year 2000.
2000, so 20 years, 23 years ago, they put this pool in and we haven't been invited for pool party. Okay.
Yeah, so I saw no concerns. That's it.
So it's just one of those paperwork oversights, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well,
So please sign it.
so that's on
That's on dot loop.
So
Yes.
we should have seen something already, or you're sending out now?
Yeah.
So are we voting for that document to be approved as submitted? It's done.
So wait, she never received a certificate of compliance, or we never voted on one for that?
She never requested one.
Yeah, so it wasn't done as a matter of course by Concom, and she just never got it, or,
I couldn't, I mean,
oh, you couldn't find it, you looked.
I went into the deep records,
Okay, all right, so apparently the Concom never
followed up, I guess,
Well,
3 years later.
did a certificate of completion, compliance order. So I guess, yes, we probably do have to vote on a certificate of compliance based on the site visit by Hannah.
Okay.
And, just to cover ourselves, and then she can issue it and we can sign it, she can issue it and, be done with that. So I'll accept the motion to accept the certificate of compliance for 79 Hickson,
Yes.
79 Hickson Street. And,
As it is on Dotloop right now.
as it is on Dotloop right now.
So moved.
Thank you, Ariane. Second.
A second.
Thank you, Noel. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Putting online, thank you. Two things. I'm going to be taking a look at 159 Blackstone Street, which is just up the street from me, 2 doors or so from the middle school across Main Street. I saw an excavator going into the wetlands area behind the house and starting to clear brush today. It's a house where, I know the person that used to deliver paper, my son used to deliver paper stone, passed away recently. And so the house has been cleaned out by the family members, which I've seen when I go by on daily walks. I'm not sure the excavator is in the wetlands yet, but it was darn close to what I thought was wetlands behind these houses. So if that's the case, we may have to take some action on that, just a heads up. And 81 Weathersfield Street.
I have not been by.
I have been by it. I met with Gail, the property owner who came in and spoke to us about this cutting happening along the wetlands and into her property from, she thinks, one of the neighbors, even though she's not seen it. It's pretty clear evidence of violation. This is right down into the cattails that people are cutting down couple inch diameter things and just leave them cut or dropped over. There's also a bunch of brushies and a drop off behind her house that they would have had to go across the lawn to do drop. I don't know how or why she didn't see that, but she was gonna put some cameras up and take a look. I talked to her about that some. I also said that my suggestion would be that, and we're gonna check with our town council just to make sure we're phrasing it properly, that we issue a draft notice to the people along that section of the street, not just the one person to the right of her who she thinks might be cutting it. So at least 3 houses, maybe a few more on either side, notifying them that we have noticed activity, keeping it anonymous. She does not want to be called out to this neighbor, even though whatever. And that any activity taking place within 25 feet of the wetlands is a violation of town and state bylaws, and they need to regulations, and they need to not do so. If they know about it, please let us know if there's any violations they know about, and something along those lines. Anybody have any input or thoughts or questions about that? Just a sort of an open warning letter, notification to people that we've observed activity, and if you're doing it, stop, and if you see anything happening there that shouldn't be happening, let us know, kind of thing, so that maybe that would help curtail the activity, because she has not caught anybody doing it, but just doesn't want to confront a neighbor with a saw in the backwoods, I don't think. But it's whoever's doing it
Is a good one.
clear violation. And I thought we'd start with that.
Hit the houses along that area.
Right, so it's not obvious who observed it and who's notified and whatever, and there may be happening more than just those 2 properties back there, but anyway, then we can take more action if we need to. Hearing nothing, seeing nothing, okay, Noel, just to let you know, because I know you weren't able to make the open meeting law training, Beth, Cornell Smith sent out, I think materials which included a link or.
The
Presentation.
recording was not in it.
Okay.
She doesn't have it.
We're working on getting the recording, which just was pretty good, and lots of questions were answered by some conservation commission members, among others. There were a few other people who asked questions, and some good information was exchanged. Some open meeting law materials were sent out by Beth after the fact. So people should have gotten that. Basically, the quorum.
The big surprise
What that
is 2 things. I think we've violated the email. Because if a quorum is 4.
Yeah, but we didn't deliberate.
I know
So
we
that's-
have email chains of 4 people. That's the public hearing.
Well, if you are, my understanding from the lawyer was, because I think somebody asked this question, is if you are sending information about a meeting time and date, materials have been sent out to be signed, Hannah does that to the entire group and so forth. That isn't a violation because you're just sending out information. You're not getting, she was careful to say, no input in the way of opinions should be expressed. feelings, concerns, not concerns, but feelings, input,
No discussion.
no discussion, right? And you don't go back and forth. So if somebody sends out to the other commission members a point of information, like we need to meet next week, you can't talk about, because I think it would be a good idea to go over this and this and that. That was the example she gave of no. But if you were saying we need to meet, or are we meeting at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock? You can do that to the commission members without violation. Because that, my understanding is, because that's just point blank
Clarification
information.
questions.
Point blank information. If somebody has a picture of some site violation, you can send that out. Nobody can comment on it to each other, even individually to each other, nevertheless the whole group. But you can send it out because that's, again, just information. That was my understanding of it, but
And if we're meeting at a public event, town event,
yes, that will.
and 4 of us get together and we're chatting, somebody who sees it can ask for.
Good raise, ethics questions, and she cautioned against that. So basically, stand in opposite corners if you see each other at town. But no.
Pretend we don't know each other. That won't be hard.
Yeah, and she did mention that even if you were at another meeting, like a planning board meeting, let's say, I go to that and I'm talking to somebody else who's not on Concom, and they start talking to me about Concom hearings that they heard about or whatever, I gotta be careful not to discuss that because that could be a violation, even though it's not quorum. Don't talk about, things, other applicants or hearings and so forth. And I did ask the question, what's the difference between a hearing and a meeting, open hearing versus an open meeting, because there are different regulations. And my analogy was not incorrect. It's like the difference between a boat and a ship. A hearing can fit in a meeting, but a meeting can't fit in a hearing, and a boat can fit on a ship like a lifeboat, but it's not the other way around. So, yeah, the hearings that we have within the meeting are treated slightly differently than the overall meeting, but anyway. So yeah, be really careful about the communication. When in doubt, be prepared to have any minutes, any emails, texts, etc., become public documents, posted on Facebook, the entire world to see, because it has happened more times than this lawyer cares to think about.
And one last point, mostly for you, because you're governing the meetings, that you have to give all people the same floor time, even if you don't like what they're saying. As long as they're not abusive and problematic, but if they're in disagreement, I know in other departments.
If you provide an open
Speakers are
comment
encouraged.
period, which you don't have to provide, she did say.
Say that again.
If you, Steve is right, if we have an open comment period that is stated by the chair at the beginning of the meeting or as a method for every meeting, of the first 10 minutes are open session meeting, everybody in the public can speak as long as they're not being rude or swearing and so forth. Steve is right. Whether I want to hear what they have to say, whether they're saying something that's absolutely pertinent to the hearing or the meeting, if you declare open session or public speaking session, I forget how it was phrased together. Public comment section, I think that's what it was. You've got to let them speak. However, I did ask the question, do you have to provide a public comment section at each meeting and announce it? So I said, no, you don't have to provide it, period. And the chair does have the ability to say when people can speak during a meeting, but you have to, if you do give them the chance to speak, has to be. It's not become a big issue here, but it could become down the road.
So you can tell someone who is speaking as part of a hearing that you have to move on to the next one, and like they're gonna have to finish up and then come back to the next one, or like
That's a little different.
conclusions,
Yes.
because that's not an open
Well,
comment period.
that's a different, if you were at the meeting, that's a different thing we're talking about.
Yeah, so then like if
No, this is an open
whatever-
comment period at the end of the meeting. It's not about a specific hearing.
It could be at the end of the
Yeah.
meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, it could be in the middle of the meeting. If you state that there's an open comment period, you have to let people speak during. You can limit the open comment period to a certain period of time and close it at that point in time and so forth. But you have to let whoever wants to speak as long as they're not swearing and so forth. We don't do that. We don't have an open comment period per se. Having an applicant speak, as I did ask about this during the process, isn't open comment. She said that's a response to a particular hearing. So that's different. You control that. You can tell people, yeah, we gotta move on, we're closing it. And in no regard can people, the idea is to keep it from being disruptive too. You're not supposed to let somebody take over a meeting, standing up in the audience and lecturing people and haranguing them on. But it was interesting information. If you get a chance, if you haven't had a chance to review the information, feel free to do so, and we can bring it up and talk about some more down the road. That's fine. Yeah. And we never heard back from Paul, did we, about 236 Blackstone Street? I want to close that out with this is the septic replacement that they did without asking us for the
What did you
paperwork.
want
and
to hear specifically?
The shed, and did you clean
He
up the
did not
debris?
respond to my phone call or email.
Okay,
He only responded about 10 Cutler,
all right, well,
and that was the suite that he
all right,
said.
we'll follow up with Blackstone Street. They've done the septic and I think ready for, are going to come to us eventually for a certificate of compliance, but they put the posts and the signs up, but they haven't cleared out the debris behind the posts, and the shed that was, I thought, going to be eliminated, even though it's outside the 25-foot, just barely is still there, so we'll have to get a clarification of that. Okay, any other business anybody have? We have no meetings until the 10th, so you get the rest of the month off. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, I just received on my desk here in front here something from Walter Timley, clerk of the courts. Looks sounds like sort of official document. One
Looks like
page.
something you should look at later.
Yes, I'm letting you know that you got a copy, Ariane, as Neil got one,
Ooh.
Noel got one, Steve did not, because they sent one to Cliff and Brian Norton as well, as a member of the Conservation Commission. So you will need to, I will not discuss it in the meeting because we went through that once before, but I'll let you know that you should either have this forwarded to you, which, if you're not gonna come in anytime soon, I wanna make sure you get this in a timely manner since it's a,
You can get it when you sign for your money.
oh, yes.
Sweet.
Well, maybe I won't be coming in.
Thanks for volunteering.
We did it for years till they made us take the money. We went years never getting the stipend. We put it back into the open space fund until we were told we couldn't do that anymore.
Oh,
Motion to adjourn?
I will accept that motion. Second,
Second.
thank you, Neil. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for attending, and don't forget to come and get your letters.